Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Oh,
Dungeon
hi.
World. If
Hey,
somebody
that's
can
fun.
tell me if the sound is okay, I will be very, very grateful. If there's anything there, somebody can tell me in here, or in Discord, or in Twitch chat, because I've got several computers here, and I'll eventually see it. I hope.
Master
Okay.
sounds fine.
Great. We're going to go around and do a quick bit of intros. So today is an unusual, it's sort of a one-off. I'm going to be teaching my four friends here and everyone who's watching how to play Dungeon World. Oh, there go my dice. That was entertaining. Anyway, Dungeon World, as you can see, I love it. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. First of all, my name is Kyle. I use he, him pronouns, and I will be your game master for today. How about Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim at Alan Moff on all the social interweb thingies, and my pronouns are he, him.
Taryn.
Hey everybody, Taryn. Yeah, he, him. I blanked on what else, if anything else. So,
That's
hi.
all. That's good. Taryn is a monster around here. Morrigan.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I use they, them pronouns, and you can find me at the FemDM on Twitter. I'm excited to play with y'all today.
It's gonna be so good. And finally, my good buddy Nat.
Hi, I'm Nat. I am the Tuesday DM. Today is in fact Tuesday. Check your calendar. We are on 5th Tuesday today of the week. And I'm excited because I haven't played Dungeon World or Powered by the Apocalypse before, and I'm excited because I've heard lots of good things.
You good? Yeah, Taryn, just go with it. The Tuesday thing, just go with it.
I use
I can't allow it.
now. Let me go into your brain for a second. Try to figure out why it's 5th Tuesday today on Saturday.
It's 5th Tuesday. It's not Saturday, it's 5th Tuesday. It's much like, yeah. Anyways, so today we are playing Dungeon World. Dungeon World is basically a love letter to Dungeons and Dragons using an entirely different underpinning for the game system, right? The actual rules and mechanics. It is commonly referred to as a Powered by the Apocalypse game, which means it more or less uses the rules core framework that Apocalypse World uses in much the same way that a lot of games call themselves D20 games, and they use the old D&D 3.5 kind of core rule set. This is way simpler. The idea here is that we're having a conversation. The five of us, we're having a conversation just like kids do when they're playing, oh, and I do this, and then I do that. The trick is that sometimes when the thing that you say has a move associated with it, which is like the core unit of rules, that means we get to roll to find out what actually happens. We're going to talk about how those moves work in a moment. There are and just so you know, there's 3 different classes of moves. There's basic moves that everybody has pretty much all the time. There are special moves which only come up in certain circumstances, like if you're going to sleep for the night, there's a special move for that, right? Whereas if you're going to hit somebody in melee, there's a basic move for that because you can do it almost all the time. And then there are class moves, which are from your playbooks, which is what we're going to talk about first. So, the 4 of you, we're going to be making up everything from scratch as we go. Don't admit you're not in the Forgotten Realms. Well, maybe we are, because the 4 of you might all decide that we are. But we are creating the world as we go. Notice we are creating the world, not the Game Master. Dungeon World, and I don't know, Taryn could tell me if other Apocalypse World games kind of have the same ethos. I expect so. Puts a lot more of the responsibility to build the fiction on the group as a whole and not just on the game master. So, there will be times I will ask you, hey, what happened in the past like this? And it's going to be your responsibility to make something up and tell me. It'll typically be stuff that your character would know or that they've perceived or is relevant to something about their history, but not always, right? The idea is that you help build this, and there are a lot of rules on the GM to facilitate that. And unlike a lot of other games, and this is partly due to kind of the philosophy of Adam Coble and Sage Latora, who are the writers of Dungeon World, the GM is a special player in some senses because I have different things that I do, but in other senses not, right? I don't get to break the rules just because I want to. And in fact, and that we'll talk about some of the things on the GM. But let's think about playbooks or classes. There are several that are. Somebody's got there's like drumming or. I heard it. Anyway, sorry. Yeah,
Tim, I
Tim,
think it's
you're
your
right.
mic.
There we go.
Yeah, it's my bad.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at all. So if you think about think about some D&D classes that you like. Barbarians, bards, clerics, druids, etc., etc. There are a number, so I sent out to y'all the PDF where that is, and I'm going to just share that to everybody else. By the way, Dungeon World is Creative Commons licensed, and that means that there's a number of places where the book is available for free online, and that's totally legitimate. If you end up liking the game like I did, you can buy. I don't have any association with those guys. I don't get any kickbacks. I'm not throwing out an affiliate link or anything like that. But just like, if you like what they did and you are able to, buy the book. If not, that's fine. This was a big ENnie winner in like 2012, 2013 era. So it's been around a few years. It predates 5e. And in fact, you're going to see a few things here that are in 5e. Or at least in some form kind of got ported over, whatever. So the only other restriction is that Dungeon World really wants, at least at the beginning, only one of any given playbook or class. So there aren't 2 druids, there's not 2 rangers, etc. If 2 players, in fact, what it actually says is, if 2 people both want to play the same playbook, discuss it like adults, which is like my favorite guidance in a rule book ever. Talk about it like adults and figure it out. So, does anybody have any particular typical D&D trope that really appeals to them? You don't even worry about the PDF first. Just think in your mind. Like, for example, in my case, I always love playing thieves and wizards. So whenever I can, I play one of those 2 classes. It could be, and this is kind of an ode to old school D&D. So there aren't wizards, warlocks, and sorcerers. There are wizards, aka magic users.
Okay.
All arcane spellcasting happens there. Nat, what are you thinking? I see you kind of. I see the pen spinning.
A moment ago, I definitely wanna. I want to do magic. Now, my first thought there was wizard, but I do also see an immolator, and this intrigues me.
So immolator was sort of an extra class that I think it was a stretch goal in their Kickstarter or something like that. I haven't personally had anybody use it, but that certainly doesn't mean that you can't. So an immolator is sort of a connection to the elemental plane of fire, sort of. If you go to, if you, honestly, you could Google for it, I think. I haven't, you can play with the immolator, likes everything to be on fire. Like, you can't be hurt by fire, and, well, it depends on your race. And everything is about fire. Fire, fire, fire.
Everything can be solved with proper application of fire.
Yeah, it is like the ultimate pyromaniac.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, that's cool.
I am open to either of those currently.
To either of what? Immolator or what? Or wizard?
Wizard. Yeah.
I usually end up playing thieves, rogues, those kind of or particularly charming characters in general. So maybe a bard. So.
Okay, thieves. So much. again, all the moves that are special to those, but all of these classes emphasize the things that they can do in the typical D&D tropes, which is why I say if you know kind of how a thief works in Dungeons and Dragons, in the fiction, and you'll see in the rules all the time it talks about in the fiction, in the narrative. Thieves like to backstab things, they're good at finding traps, and they are good, and depending on how you play your thief, right, you can choose to, kind of be a poisoner, a charmer, whatever, right? And then similarly, bards are spellcasters. They don't. No, they're not spellcasters because they don't have spells in the ways that clerics and wizards do. Bards can use magic as part of their performances in whatever performance that means for you. It could be, you like to play the lute. It could mean that you are an epic poet. Whatever those things are. And they weave their magic into their performances. Barbarians, by the way, are not like Grog and Yasha. Barbarians in this game are like Conan. And what we mean specifically is that they are from wherever we are, the barbarians are not from that place. The barbarians are from some other part of the world, and they're not from necessarily what we think of as the civilized world in whatever way that means. The barbarian player gets to decide what that means. This isn't me telling you, oh, you're this savage, whatever. It just means you're different. You're an outsider. And you have moves associated with that. And typically, depending on how you play the barbarian, the things that they want are very different from what other people may want, or they just take it to extremes or whatever. The fighter is the fighter. The fighter is like the greatest combat specialist around. They even get to make a special weapon and create it that is sort of their whole special thing. So who else? Clerics. Clerics get to make up their gods and the tenets of their gods. Druids are in Dungeon World less about kind of being nature wizards and more about the shape-shifting part. In 5e terms, they're basically moon druids in that sense. If you go back to like the original, AD&D and the older versions, druids there, or if you even go back like the original fiction, right, in The Hobbit in Tolkien, right, what's that one guy who turns into a bear all the time?
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but I mean like the guy when all the dwarves get stuck. I forget the name of the character, but anyway, that's kind of the inspiration for it. The paladin is a righteous force of anger and vengeance. And Dungeon World, as I was telling Nat this before, is not a game where systems mastery really plays because the players are supposed to win. There's a chance that you won't, but the idea is my job is to make you look awesome. And so the paladin can be a little OP depending on what happens, but that's the point of the paladin, right? The challenge that they face is not will they win, but will they do so in a way that follows their tenets. What else do we have?
Paladin sounds like it's right up my alley.
Okay, so we got a paladin.
I like big, soft, chunky dads. So
I see Tim making a face.
I heard the magic word shape-shifting, so I am going to be a druid.
Okay, great. So
And I think I'm going to play a bard just because I just played like a sneaky, stabby character. I kind of want to do something a little bit more flamboyant.
All right, Morgan. And in a minute, y'all are going to make up your names, and then for the rest of this game, I'm not calling you by your real names anymore. Nat, have you figured out between...
My character Nat.
What's that?
What if I name my character Nat?
You're going to make me sad.
you can be anything.
You can be anything, and you choose to... I mean, for 4 hours... Yeah. Anyway.
Wait, what if we just called each other's different names?
Oh, y'all are gonna yeah. He's gonna take the name
Kyle,
Morrigan.
Kyle the Paladin.
Morgan's gonna take the name Terran. I'm gonna hate you all the time we're done. Nat, have you narrowed it down between those two?
I think I'll pop into that wizard life.
Okay, good. Man, this is old. So we have a paladin, druid, bard, and wizard. This is fantastic, and I'm so happy. So if each of you go to your playbooks, within that, I'll use Morgan as an example. You're going to see some things to fill out. Now, the names there are basically suggestions, right? You can make up your own, of course, but you pick from those choices or others what your bard's body looks like. Are they fit? Are they well fed? Are they thin? Do they have knowing, fiery, or joyous eyes? The other thing is each class is, I don't want to say restricted, by default is either it has a certain number of races associated with them, and that's important because they have a move associated with that. So bards are typically elves or humans. Again, not restricted. There's a blank space literally in the playbook if somebody's like, but I really want to be a dwarven bard. Then you can totally do that. So moves, this is where it's important to talk about moves, because you see you have starting moves and racial moves for your characters. So a bard has four starting moves. Arcane art rather, when you weave a performance into a basic spell, then you get to choose what that spell does. Does it heal damage? Does it help buff them in some way? But notice the next one, Charming and Open, when you speak frankly with someone. That's literally a move that you can speak frankly with someone, and you can ask their player, including me, a question that we have to answer honestly. You get to pick an area of expertise, and anytime we run into anything that is relevant to that area of expertise, and you get to decide if it's relevant, then you can ask the GM a question about it, and I have to answer truthfully. This is not you think this. No, I have to tell you the truth. There's a lot of things in here, by the way, that will tell you that say the GM will answer you truthfully. And then elves and humans get slightly different additional moves. So you can pick those each for yourselves. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. And then we're going to start with assigning... Oh, then let's talk a little bit, actually, while I'm thinking of it, about ability scores. You get some core ability scores that you can assign as you like, which are, if you want to write these down, that's fine. They're also in the online version of the book. 16, 15, 13, 12, 9, 8. Once you look over your class, you'll see kind of which stat is most important. For example, one can imagine that for a bard, charisma is very important. For a fighter, strength is typically important. Totally, and here's a hint. You want low scores are great because one of the ways you get experience is by failing at things. So it incentivizes you to try stuff where you don't have a high stat. So for example, it incentivizes a barbarian who actually has a low intelligence but thinks that they're the brains of the party and constantly be trying to remember things and give their expertise on things, and when they fail, they get experience. Or in my case, as I played for my last campaign, a thief who thinks they're very charismatic, but is not, and that gave me all kinds of XP. Any questions about your starting playbooks, about any of that?
Yeah. So how are you going to take us through like the process of like filling out these character sheets?
Yeah, so if you've chosen your class, now choose your race and your name. Right? So, for example, you can choose elf or human by default. If you really want to play a character that's neither elf nor human, we can make that happen. But those are just like what it comes like in the default starting set. And then you choose your look and your stats that we talked about: 16, 15, 13, 12, 9, 8. You don't get additional modifiers to those stats based on your race. That's what your racial move is for. So, for example, if you play a halfling thief, I know this because that's what I played in my last campaign, a halfling thief gets a bonus to range damage. But human paladins, hint, hint, get a fictional move about knowing what's evil. Because, in fact, in this game, to the extent that system mastery even exists, it's really all about fictional positioning, figuring out how to get your character into a position where they're going to be able to succeed. Yeah, Corey says we could use that paladin move. Yeah, tell me here what is evil. If
I think
only.
some people have that move, to be honest.
If only. Also, you will notice that not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, a lot of the move names in some of the classes are basically in jokes. They're trying to get you in the mentality of the fiction they're trying to create. So one of the paladin starting moves is "I am the law," where you can tell an NPC what to do based on your divine authority. Similarly, the barbarian has some of my favorites. Nobody here's playing a barbarian, so one of them is appetite for destruction. Another is what is best in life. Another is a good day to die, or kill them all, or for the blood god. Like, it's trying to get you in the mindset of what they want the barbarian to be like, or what the fiction was trying to create, right? Let's see. When I played my thief, what were my... you had like cheap shot and shoot first. Shoot first is the best name for any move in the whole game. Yeah. Once you've done that, then you figure out modifiers. And it should show them to you above there in the playbook. So a 16 is a +2, your 15 is a +1. So the breakpoints are 9 through 12. Next break point is at 15. So 13 through 15 is a +1. 16 or 17 is +2. 18 is +3. Your hit points is whatever your class's base hit points are, plus your Constitution score, not your modifier. So...
how are we assigning, like, what are the numbers we can assign to our respective ability scores? I think I might have missed that.
So if you look on the playbook,
Oh, okay.
right above them, it'll tell you 16, 15, 13, 12,
perfect.
9, and 8.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Don't worry about alignment and bonds just yet. We're going to get to those in a minute. Those are where it really gets fun. It's where I think that Dungeon World really starts to shine. Certainly in long-term campaigns, bonds, which are not exactly like the 5e bond system, they're way better, and I wish that this is what they had used in D&D, and I try to use it in my games, because it's not bonds to the world, it's bonds to each other. Yeah, so once you have those stats, and also your max HP, as you can guess, doesn't change very much as you level up over the course of a campaign. If your Constitution score goes up, not your modifier, then your hit points will go up, but obviously only by 1 point, right? Basically, your hit points at the beginning are... as you level, you get the ability to do more different things, but it's more breadth than depth. You don't get to be... Your HP doesn't go up, your... modifiers, increase only slightly. For the most part, you get to take additional things that you can do. But we won't have to worry about that today.
Out of curiosity, because you mentioned that you advance based on failure, which is fun.
That's one of the about half of your XP overall will come from that.
Okay. How do you fail at Constitution? Is that
I
just
will
getting
show
smacked
you in the
down?
moves. Yes. Oh, you can totally fail at Constitution.
Okay.
Mostly, it's like the equivalent of a saving throw, which is called Defy Danger.
Hmm. All right.
All right. Now, on your playbook, it also has under their starting moves. Some of you, like the Bard, have some choices to make in those. So you can choose for the Bard your bardic lore. The Wizard, of course, gets to choose some initial spells.
Spells.
Let's see. Paladins, you don't have to set your quest yet. We will set that pretty quickly in the game. But it doesn't make sense quite yet to have it. And then the Druid decides what area they're from. What type of region. So for those listening, it could be the River Delta, the Frozen North, the Great Forests, etc. It's the Stinking Mire. And even, one of the reasons that's important is anytime you shapeshift, you still have a tell that indicates that you are from that area. So, for example, a buddy of mine played a druid from the Stinking Mire, and his tell was that he always smelled like a rotten swamp. Even if he transformed into a majestic eagle, he smelled like a swamp. It was flavorful. Nobody else liked it. I mean, none of the other characters liked it. We all thought it was awesome. Let's see, is any questions? Dan wants to make Powered by the Apocalypse that's a love letter to Invisible Sun. And I feel like Invisible Sun is almost there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got a lot of mixed elements, I feel like.
Yeah, I think there's, some inspiration there. Okay. Now, for each of you, you have choices in alignment. This is, or actually, I should say, everybody got their stats and starting moves done?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. So, alignment is not the 9-point system. It's a 5-point system. And your class or your playbook decides what alignments are available to you normally. Again, so for example, I have a gothic game where I have a thief who's actually an undercover detective, and so we made up a good alignment for that thief because he's not really a thief. And then at the end of a session, if you fulfilled that alignment, chaotic, good, neutral, evil, or order, at the end, or if it's order or law, at the end of the session, if you fulfilled that alignment at least once, you get to mark XP. So you look at so for example, for the Druid, chaotic, destroy a symbol of civilization. Good, help someone or something grow. Or neutral, eliminate an unnatural menace. Notice they don't get lawful and they don't get evil. Right? Similarly, you can't really, and normally by default, you cannot have a lawful thief because what? We did, so for example, that thief that I mentioned a moment ago in a game that I run, who's a good thief, we use the Druid's good alignment to help someone or something grow. Because he's actually, like I said, he's an undercover detective. So he's trying to find ways to do that. Also, on your gear, if you go to your second page, gear works so much differently and so much more simply. So, first of all, Dungeon rations, you have some number of uses of them, and a use is basically a day's worth of food. Armor, armor and damage work differently, and we'll go through that in a little bit. Your weapon, choose the one that, don't worry too much about the stats on it. Choose the thing that makes sense for what you're what you imagine. So, for example, the paladin can have a halberd or a long sword and shield. So, do you want the long polearm, or do you want the classic sword and shield? Totally up to you. While you're doing it, let me talk about adventuring gear. Adventuring gear is so awesome in Dungeon World. You don't have to worry about how many candles do I want and how many different things of rope do I want and ball bearings and all of that. You have a use of adventuring gear. And anytime you feel like, I really need a rope to climb down this thing, you say, aha! I reach into my adventuring gear and I pull out a use of rope, and you mark off one use of adventuring gear, and that's it. Adventuring gear is that you just happen to have the thing that you needed at the right time, but you only have a limited number of uses of that. Somebody else might say, I need a python to spike the door or whatever, or a grappling hook, right? And you have some number of uses of those. And each of these things has a weight associated with it. So, for example, a long sword has 1 weight and a shield has 2 weight. And adventuring gear, 5 uses, has 1 weight. And your total load is based on your strength modifier plus a basic number. I know I said a lot of words. It's super straightforward, especially getting started out. You have a certain number of things that you can carry. But it's not, I have 58.5 pounds. It's not nearly that level of granularity. And I tell you, I love so much the adventuring gear kind of system where you're not having to pick from this long list of things you might need. Because the point of this is to tell the story of a group of adventurers and not to be, it's not simulationist in that sense, right? It's just putting those things together. Everybody made their choices there?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about advanced moves. Those are not going to apply for a one-shot. Those are when you level up. When I said you get to do additional things, that's what that comes out to be. So
are we gonna figure out bonds?
We're gonna do that's what bonds are after we introduce our characters, so you kind of know who each other are. So, now that you kind of have in your mind who your character is, you have a name, you have obviously your playbook. If you don't have your name, do it quick. And you'll come around, you'll mention your name, your class, what they look like, and something cool that you kind of made up in your mind. Again, nothing is real in the game until we say it. Once we say it, it's real. But that means that I don't come with any preconceptions about how the world has to be. This is a D&D world, whatever that means. This is a dungeon world. Ready?
Sure.
All right, Taryn, introduce us to your character.
All right. I'm playing Gavin, the human paladin. He is on in his years. Sort of gray, scraggly beard, long gray hair pulled back into it like a top bun kind of thing. He's got the classic sword and shield. They're worn. Same thing with his armor. Everything seems to have been in use for a very long time. He's been in and out of the paladin game for a while. Interesting thing. Kind of what are you looking there for there?
So, okay, let me ask you this. What god do you worship? See, you just have to. This is what I don't make up a pantheon.
Yep.
You tell me what god you worship. or what kind of god they are, even if you don't
I
have
was
a
gonna
name
say,
yet.
I was gonna probably a god of justice and forgiveness.
Oh,
Um,
forgiveness is interesting for a paladin.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it.
You're like the patron saint of second chances.
Pretty much.
All right.
And then, and I think it's the Lady of, oh, what's a good? The Lady of Scales. Is my
Is it Lady of
god.
Scales like the scales of justice, or like a lizard?
Like the scales of justice, yeah. And lizard scales.
Oh, okay. See,
She's also the god of scales.
yeah. So she's like a lizard, a lizard folk with fantastic.
Yep.
All right. So you said your character is kind of. So your character is older. Gavin,
Yes,
you're older.
Gavin is an older fellow. He's we'll just go with that. He's
Okay, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah.
We'll figure things out. Was Gavin? Were you fighting in a war, or you've been out adventuring, or you were on some holy thing?
I think the first time Gavin went on an adventure, it wasn't as a paladin.
Oh, so Gavin.
This is more of a redemption arc than.
Ooh, that hence the interest in forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Did Gavin make a mistake?
I would say a few, yeah.
So we're gonna get to those because I sense fertile ground for bonds between characters.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. All right, Tim, why don't you introduce us to your character?
So hey, I'm Brody. I'm a halfling druid, and I'm from the Sapphire Islands. Like, I got messy hair, which has all got frosted tips. No, and whatever animal I transform into, they have frosted tips. So yeah, I just like go around in like leopard print swim shorts and nothing else.
So that's the kind of game we're playing today.
That's how it is.
And I'm a halfling, dude. Like, shocker, bro.
So from the Sapphire Islands to where we will be getting started, what caused you to kind of want to leave the Isle? What is it that you're trying to? Are you trying to like just go see more natural areas, or you're trying to push back against civilization?
Well, the problem is, man, like, people are ruining the sick waves around my islands, and like, I want to go on those waves, man. That's the problem, and people just keep ruining them. So I'm gonna go and see what these lot are doing in my waves. And if I find some sick waves and some other cool bits of nature along the way, then power to me, bro.
All right, sick waves.
Sick waves, man.
All right. How about our bard friend? What is our bard friend like?
I'm playing Olive Penumbra. She is about 20 years old, and she's she's a human, a little on the shorter side, a little like kind of rounder, and she has like a stylish pink sparkly beret, and like I don't know if you're familiar with like the aesthetics associated with the manic pixie dream girl trope. It's very much that. She has like she's like very low dexterity. She's a klutz, and she's just like, I do theater and writing, and I am just here to make a statement about the world, and here I am. And she bursts out into song frequently, and she has like no actual like ambition or like direction or anything. She just likes a lot of things, is very excitable, and she has her one super big obsession, and she's like read all of the history books about adventurers past, which is why she wanted to become an adventurer.
I'm so
But
into
she's,
this
like,
right now.
obsessed with them, and like she like grew up in like kind of like a troupe, and like, you know, acting out the stories, and now she's like, I need to become my own adventurer. And so that's what she's doing now.
This is so great. A manic pixie dream girl, theater nerd / adventurer history. Oh, this is so great. So this is her first adventure. What does her family think about her going off on adventures? Since she's 20.
She's 20. She actually ran away from home when she was about 16 or 17. Not that it was like a bad home or anything like that. It was actually really nice, just very boring. And she had like a lot of stuff going on in her head. She was reading all these adventure novels, and she just wanted more in the Disney princess sense of the world. And so she just kind of like grabbed up all her books and put them in a messenger bag and left one night and joined a circus. And, you know, now she's seeing where life takes her next.
So, what is her sort of bardic art? Is it like music? Is it like,
She does a little bit of music, but it's mostly weird, like experimental spoken word, and like she's like it's a very musical theater kind of vibe. So
musical,
she'll, like,
right.
Yeah, so it's like it's gonna be like if it's gonna be song and dance kind of thing. Less traditional bard ballad battle music.
Is she my sister? Anyway, oh no, this is great. Oh, I love this so much. And now finally, let's meet this wizard.
So, my name's Roderick Brackwater, ship's mage. Not super wizardly fellow, you know, more of a sailor that does magic, and that's usually why I carry my weight. I'm so I'm imagining him as like a half elf with the elf trait, mostly because I don't want to deal with cleric spells today.
It's fine.
Yep. He's likes the wind in his hair, and the spray of the sea on his chin.
Y'all just totally changed, by the way, and this is awesome. I had this vague idea for what we were going to start with, and now I'm totally, based on all of these things, I'm like, no, I'm choosing, I'll talk about this method that I'm using in a moment to how I'm doing this. But no, this is going to be fantastic. What kind of magic does Roderick, like in general, is it basically like navigation? He tries to keep the ship moving. He's more offensive or defensive. What does he do on the ship?
Honestly, his most valuable talent is just prestidigitation, you know, to clean things, keep things sanitary. But when a tussle comes down, you know, he can sling a little magic here or there, or maybe he can slink off. But, you know, he's not afraid of climbing the ropes and helping with the rigging when things get rough and tumble.
Sure. I mean, he doesn't want the other sailors to look at him like he's, not pulling his weight. That is fantastic. What kind of ship is he on? Is it like a trading ship? Is it a pirate ship? What kind of ship is it?
You know, it's not piracy if it's sanctioned by the local fiefdom.
Got it. Like a privateer. Okay. Okay, so he's a cabin boy who can do magic. Got it.
Yeah.
Tim, look like you had a question.
No, I'm just thinking of what this group dynamic looks like. I just get the picture of like, there's like when you got like parents taking your kids off to college, just like college tours.
So
I just, I feel like it'd be like Gavin's gonna be like the really tight like dad's like, come on, let's go to the next college, come on.
I've got like those like leashes on you guys, like the
Yeah. Dad,
like,
come on.
collars.
This is a really good arts program, Dad. Come on.
so
Roderick's a little more mature, but he's more like the bad influence uncle, to be honest. It's like, we
Oh gosh.
could do this. Or
Wait, are we raising these children
or-
together? Are we raising
Yes.
these children together?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Wait, how old is Roderick?
Oh, he's probably 35.
Okay.
How
35 is older.
He's not young. I mean, he's been on a ship for an entire time.
You.
Most people who's around don't live that long.
You know, those old people, the 33-year-olds.
This is just turning into a messer of my life.
Yeah, Gavin is probably nowhere like under 60, so.
Noted.
That's fantastic. That's really great. So before we get to bonds, does anybody have anything they want to know about each other's characters? Like questions like the ones that I was asking.
So we have. Sorry, let me get names real
Sorry.
fast again.
Yeah.
So we have Gavin.
We have Gavin, we have Brody, the druid from the Sapphire Isles. We have Olive Penumbra, magical pixie dream girl musical theater nerd. I can't believe those are words I just said in this game. And Roderick Blackwater, the privateer wizard. Ship's mage.
Broderick.
Roderick.
Roderick.
No, Broderick is the ship name.
Yeah.
Roderick on the brook.
Broderick. Okay, got it.
All right. Anything you want to know about each other's characters, and I'm going to explain how bonds work after that.
This would just be things about them, right?
Yeah, just things like trying to get. It's helping you kind of get in the mindset of your own character and building a little bit of a framework for them, and also so y'all can figure out about how you relate to each other.
Yeah. Roderick, what was your relationship like with your captain?
Oh, well, the last captain wasn't that good. But this one's fine. Like, we're getting along for now.
Interesting. Okay, bonds, as noted, are how you relate to each other as characters. There's some reason that the four of you are together for some purpose, right? It may or may not be that you have a bond with every other character, although it's in your interest to do so, because it affects things like in Dungeons and Dragons, when you have the help action, you just help each other. In Dungeon World, how well that works depends a little bit on whether or not you have a bond with that character. And bonds, again, in a campaign setting, which we're not really doing here, also help you gain experience. Because when you fulfill a bond, you get to mark XP. So, and fulfill doesn't necessarily mean that you did a thing, although it can. It could just mean it's not the most relevant way to how you relate to each other. So, for example, the wizard has 3 suggested bonds here. The wizard, you pick a person who will play an important role in events to come because you've foreseen it. Somebody else is keeping an important secret from you. And somebody else is woefully misinformed about the world, and you will teach them what you can. So and again, you can certainly write your own if you have ideas. These are examples to get you started, right? The paladin bonds, somebody's misguided behavior endangers their soul. Perhaps someone else has stood by you in battle and has your complete trust. Perhaps someone else, you respect their beliefs, but you hope they'll see the true way someday. and someone else perhaps you believe you can learn from their bravery. These are the examples of what bonds are like in this game. And again, there's the defaults that are right there to help you out. So let's try with Brody, Brody.
Okay,
Dude.
right. Looking at like the bonds that Brody could have, I think I'm looking at those bonds and I'm like, okay, so one of them is the spirit spoke to me of a great danger that follows Gavin.
Oh, have the spirits told you what that danger is?
No, they get this like bad vibe that something's gonna come for Gavin eventually, but like they sometimes like just stay near him and like stop this spirit from like following the danger.
And the rest of you, if you see a bond that you want to have with somebody else, jump in. This is a conversation.
There's okay.
And are we limited to the ones listed here, or could we like write our own?
You can absolutely write your own.
Because I was just thinking,
Okay.
if Roderick is on a ship and you're from like an island nation, maybe there's something there.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty easy
The one I was
But what
thinking for,
happened?
I mean, the one I was thinking for Broderick from one of the ones I've got, which is really weird.
No,
is-
that's the great thing about this game.
Yeah.
You get to define the bond. Here's the best part. Not the best part. What happens is the other player has to, if you're in a campaign, again, this is just teaching the game.
Yeah.
If you're in a campaign and you think you've resolved the bond with somebody else and you created a bond with them, they have to agree that you've resolved that bond. Make stuff. I mean, in other words, work it out together. But
Right.
the idea being, no, you could say, okay, we were on an adventure together and work it out.
Okay, Broderick, you've tasted my blood, and I have tasted yours. We are bound by it.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Boy.
Look at the druid. One of the
Oh,
bonds
yeah.
is someone
What
has
does
tasted
that
my
mean?
blood, and I theirs. We are bound by it.
Yeah, and
What
it
does
could
that
be
mean
that
for you two.
one of the other ones is like, this person smells more like prey than a hunter.
Prey than a hunter.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that, one day I was like in the ocean having a swim, and then Roderick, he caught me, like in that, and then tried to eat me, and I'm like, no, bro, I'm not having that. So I bit him, and then we were like, bro, I'm a human, bro. And he's like, whoa, bro. Halfling, bro. Whoa, bro. So yeah.
So Brody and
A lot of
Roderick
bros.
were on the same ship together for a while. So
Yeah.
Brody was a privateer.
Brody like got taken on by him afterwards. They were like, after the instance of trying to eat each other, we were like, bro.
All right.
I've got one.
Yeah.
So I respect the beliefs of Brody, but hope they will someday see the true way. So I hope at some point he's gonna see the scales for what they are, and
Yeah, I think that's a pretty natural way for paladins and druids to interact.
like yeah. Go ahead.
One. So, Gavin's been at this game for a while, right?
Yeah, we said yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be absurd of him to have like stories about him as an adventurer are out in the world and to being told by like my generation.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
could be the case, and they're probably not like nice stories. If they were from Gavin's younger years, they were a lot of slaughter and pillaging and not good things.
So one of these is I sang stories of Gavin long before I ever met them in person.
I love it.
That's fantastic. So how about Roderick? What about you? What kind of bonds do you have from your direction to other people?
Well, of the three I'm looking at that are on the sheet, I only really like one of them. And that's somebody's keeping an important secret from me.
Ooh. Who is keeping an important secret from you?
So, question: is this a situation where Brody
No.
would have a connection with me and I would with him, or is it his connection with me that's together, and then I would have a connection with somebody else?
Normally, you have to have a minimum of one bond, but normally you can have bonds with each other character. And they don't have to be, they are not necessarily mirrors to each other. Right?
Okay.
So, for example, Brody's bond with you is that you have tasted each other's blood, but you can have a different bond with Brody. Right?
Okay.
That's
we
sort
need
of...
to have like two bonds going both ways.
Yeah. In other words, you each have a
Yeah.
bond with the other, but they're not necessarily the same. And then hopefully you also have a bond with Gavin and with all of Penumbra.
All right. Well, I think there's if Olive is okay with this, I think there's some story that she hasn't told me, and that's important.
That's cool.
Yes.
All of you.
Important.
By the way, all of us doesn't have to tell you now what that secret is. It needs to come out during play.
Wait, what?
There's some story or secret that you have that he knows you have, but he doesn't know what it is. And that's it. Like, that's all that we have to define right now. Because later on, you could suddenly be like, hey, you know that thing? Or whatever. Whatever makes sense. Because in real life, I feel like these are two theater nerds. Like, the actual players. Not Roderick, but Nat.
Yeah, basically, and then we get this a lot from
Yes,
Broken Shadows,
and-
is there's debts as kind of our bonds, and it's all about creating drama in the system. And so, like, you don't really need to figure out exactly what the debts for or the bonds are there for. They're for in-game to be like, oh yeah, we have this connection, and this is a perfect time to just rile up the drama.
Right.
So,
And then, again, in a campaign, naturally, these bonds get replaced by things that happen during the course of a campaign. So at the end of each session, you look at your bonds. You can resolve one of them. You get if the other person agrees, you mark XP. And then you write a new one based on something that happened during the session, a thought or belief you have about that person, and a way that you connect them. And that becomes a new bond. Because eventually, right, the adventures that you're on are more important than whatever happened before. Right? Anyone else want to have any bonds with each other?
yeah, I've actually got two ideas. Sorry, I love
No, it's
bonds.
good.
So one of the ones I have is the dangers or misguided behavior endangers their very soul. Roderick's methods are a little iffy for me, and I am very worried about the way he goes about things.
Excellent.
And the other one is a brave soul. I have much to learn from him. I think, kind of changing that up a bit, I think Olive has a kind heart, and I have much to learn from them.
Yes.
So,
And yeah, that's the whole point of this is we are not restricted to telling the exact story that Dungeon World already has in it. How about Olive? You got any others?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas? I can't really think.
Well, for ideas again. Look at your playbook. So the bard,
Yeah.
somebody is often the butt of your jokes, or perhaps you're writing a ballad, or you're writing a new musical about the adventures of a certain person, or perhaps somebody else trusted you with the secret, and we can determine later if that relates to the secret that you're keeping from Roderick.
That's what I was thinking, actually. Who trusted me with the secret? Well, Brody, did you trust me with the secret?
Oh yeah, like I showed you a secret of the land.
We'll get to what the secret is, but it's a secret, Brody.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Yeah.
called a secret.
Like I showed you a secret, right, of the land of like.
Oh, that's right, because you've got a bond in
Yeah,
that
so
direction.
it's like it's a both way bond.
Ah.
I told you a secret, and we're sharing a secret.
I see it.
Secrets.
Secrets.
Naughty.
And
Secret
it's
tunnel.
like meta, like I am keeping this secret away from Roderick, which is the secret that you showed me. This is Bondception.
Bond.
We are bonded in a secret tunnel.
Kinky.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just some group bondage going on here.
And then Roderick. I don't know. I feel like I don't know like how these characters would interact yet. And I'm trying to like what kind of information do you want to know? Because that'll help me figure out what this secret I have from you is.
Well, Roderick, at the end of the day, like if you really cut into his core, is about finding the magic in the world, and that's both figurative and literal. And he believes he can find that, under the wind of the sea, but open to discovering in other places too.
Okay.
It's almost maybe almost a wizard with the heart of a druid.
Okay.
I'm thinking of another bond, and it's like the opposite of there's something I don't know. It's like Roderick makes bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking one of those did something bad that maybe another person he specifically doesn't want to know. Maybe like a weird three-way bond thing where, like, for instance, Gavin knows
Three-way
something I
bondage.
did and I don't want him to tell Brody.
Oh.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely know some things you've gotten up to.
Yeah.
And it's I don't want to tell Brody, but sometimes if that gets out there, it helps. You kind of get to that point of forgiveness. So
Get it all out there, man. Like,
I'm really not on the train of forgiveness. I'm on the train of skirting by.
let's get in
my
this
friend,
love circle.
we'll fix that, my friend. We'll fix that.
How does our illustrious game master feel about that concept?
If y'all are happy, I'm happy.
What
The
they can do
bonds
with
you
love
have
circle.
with each other are outside of my purview. I just love to learn about them because they help me drive the fiction later.
Okay. So, question: since this is something
So
that,
good.
since this is something that Gavin and Roderick already know, should we define what it is?
Yeah, we can define it in fiction, in game.
Okay. Okay.
The
That's what
beauty of Dungeon World.
Right.
Alright.
Yep.
Yeah.
We will.
Yep.
It will come out because whatever idea you have now, whatever we get into the adventure, that may color what you as a player want to do with that backstory.
Olive is writing a play about Roderick and may or may not have like a weird schoolgirl crush on him.
Can see that,
Because
yeah.
he's older.
He's the ruffian.
Well, I guess
of the group.
35 to 20 is old enough that he's an older guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's got that Han
think,
Solo vibe.
Yeah,
I think
and you
absolutely-
described him a little bit as like makes bad decisions. Maybe there's some like bad boy energy there.
He's
I
on a
think he
privateer
would be
ship.
Absolutely elated if he found out.
This is so great.
I'm just gonna have to corral you all. This is gonna be the worst.
Why yes. I do feel like a movie star. Thank you very much.
This is totally changing.
Olive, have you thought about the fact that by telling his story, you're sort of putting out some misguided ideas for the young ones that will hear that later?
But every story deserves to be told, whether or not it's,
But do you have to tell it so graphically?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like she's writing Roderick fan fiction now.
Oh,
Oh.
That's what was in my mind when I thought about it.
I can.
This
She says that it's a lot more artsy than it is, but she doesn't let anyone read it. It's inside of this like leather-bound journal that's like tied like several times.
leather bound, you
Here.
say?
Keeps it under her pillow at night.
Are you writing this under a pseudonym?
Maybe.
Okay.
Right,
So we have all of that. Does anybody have any other questions about each other's characters or any of that? Because then I'm going to get to some questions, but I definitely want you to have resolved all that stuff as much as you can.
Small concept here. I'm considering whether or not to pick the charm person spell, and I'm just wondering if the bard does similar enough things that'd be redundant.
Let's take a look. One of my abilities is charming and open.
That's probably close enough. I'll take the other thing.
Yeah, it's when you speak frankly with someone, I can ask them a question from the list below, and they must answer truthfully.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to get to some initial adventuring in a moment. This is actually a good time to take a quick break. We've been there for a little more than an hour, and that will give me a moment to kind of think through how we're going to structure the initial stuff. So typically the way these things start off is that based on the things that you have said about where you came from, actually, I do have a few questions, come to think of it, based on that. So Gavin, we have a few things, we know where Brody's from. Roderick, you said that you're on a ship that's sort of authorized by a home nation to engage in piracy-like activity.
Well, as long as we don't steal from them, it's okay.
So that's the question. Who are they?
So I don't. Well, words. Brody, you said you were from a place. What was the name of that place?
He's from the Sapphire. He's too busy flirting with Matt.
Sapphire
Sorry,
Island.
sorry. Yeah, Sapphire Island.
Called out. Called out.
Sapphire Islands are like in a close enough coast.
Right. So have you seen what was that movie from the 1990s with
Tuesday.
Oh, that one, yeah, the one.
the one from the 1990s with
There was-
Mila Jovovich.
With who?
With who?
Mila Jovovich.
The Fifth Element?
No, it's the one.
Resident
it was basically
Evil?
It was her and a guy, and they were basically on this beach.
Waterworld?
No, I can't remember. Right, sorry, I'm gonna have to
Kevin
Google this.
Is she a is she a volleyball?
That wasn't the 90s, man.
Anyway, we're not playing
Wow.
Guess the IMDb.
Am I the only one that remembers the 90s?
I don't.
I
A little bit.
Born in the 90s.
I was 5 at most. I
Same.
really don't remember.
Anyway, like just imagine like the proper like surfer beacher kind of. There's a tiki hut somewhere. Like Brody was
Like-
back in his days, like just hanging out with the animals, going swimming, coming back with his surfer bros, and then like mixing cocktails in the beach, that kind of thing.
Oh.
Return to the Blue
I'm
Lagoon?
Yes, that's it.
I had to look it up.
Okay, so I'm imagining that the fiefdom, or whatever legal construction that we want it to be, that authorizes this privateering, is like coastally adjacent, or at least close enough that I pirate upon upon the Sapphire Islands.
Okay. Shaka.
All right.
Yeah.
Olive, what kind of... you said you ran away from your family. Did you run away, like, to a different city or to a different country? Or how far did you run away?
I joined a traveling circus.
Okay.
And I left the circus when I was recently, and to just go and do my own thing. Because I met Gavin, who was doing some business things, adventuring. And she remembered him from the old stories that she would read, and she was just like fangirling about this super cool dude. And she's just like, hey, can I hang out with you? And then she's kind of been following her around ever since, trying to like learn as much as she can about adventuring.
She's
She
like
really
she's
looks
like
up to
his
him
granddaughter.
in like a really genuine way.
She's like his granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Literally, I've adopted her and will not let anything hurt her ever. Olive is too precious and shall be protected.
Gavin, are you from any of these areas?
I think Gavin's from like a very tiny coastal town. I think he like probably was born to be a fisher and hated that, and so set out and has been all over. But yeah, I think he's finally back home. That's kind of where this.
So he
this
hated
paladin arc started.
fishing, and he's done some bad things when he was younger. Was he a pirate?
I don't think pirate. Well, actually, yeah, he could have been a pirate. I mean, that ties things together.
And he doesn't have to be. To be clear, I'm just asking.
No, I like it. No, I like where that angle and the tie-in is.
Wait. What if you knew the old captain?
Yeah, that is.
What is with
The
the
one that
faces?
he would have a good relationship with.
I mean,
What
again,
if I
it's not
was?
piracy
Kidding.
if it's sanctioned.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out
Right.
there.
Privateer and pirate are... Privateer is piracy adjacent.
Yeah, I think I might have even, I don't know if sailed with, but like we were part of the same like
Crew?
not crew, because like we had our own
Faction,
ships,
sort of.
maybe. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
consortium of pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, this is good. So we are apparently going to have everybody's been thinking about Salt Marsh, and so now we're going to have a nautical themed...
Guilty.
Salt Marsh World.
This is not the only game I'm in where this has been coming up, where all of a sudden people want to talk about the ocean.
I mean, honestly, this is really just Tim's fault. He was just like, I'm a play surfer, bro.
No,
and
this
we
all...
went
You're
with
right.
it.
This started out with Brody.
I
Yeah.
gotta say, I had it in my brain before that, low key.
I mean,
It was-
Okay.
and to be fair, all of this came from the idea of frosted tips. I just wanted every creature I shift into to have frosted tips.
Really, I think frosted tips is the root of a lot of problems in our society.
I'm
so-
not even going to touch that with a tip.
The
No.
root of all our solutions.
No.
Okay.
Tuesday.
So what I'm using is something called a dungeon starter. It's what I'm going to be using here, where it gives me a set of questions like these we've been talking about to ask you that are focused on figuring out your history and where we are. Some kind of impressions. There's a few special moves. Oh, let's talk about moves. This is a good time to talk about that. So moves reflect something that you are doing in the fiction that trigger this, that can result, not always in a die roll, but in something mechanical, right? And to be clear, they are bound together. You can't do the thing in the fiction without triggering the move, and you can't trigger the move without doing the thing, whatever that is, within our shared narrative. A couple of things happen. In many moves, you have to roll dice. And when you roll dice in Dungeon World, it's almost always 2 6-sided dice, which is why I mentioned you need those. You will roll them together. You will depending on the move, you may add some other statistic, like like for example, one of your ability modifiers, and then you'll get one of 3 types of outcomes. On a 10 or higher, you accomplish whatever you were trying to do, whatever it is. On a 7 through 9, it's a mixed success, success at a cost, fail forward, etc. You can do it, but you may or may not like the result. And on a 6 or less, you fail, and I get to make a move from my list of moves, and that can be hard or soft. There's different things that can happen. Some moves will specify what happens on a 6 or less. Others, if they don't, then I just gotta get to pick based on something that makes sense, right? Because I have rules on me to be a fan of the characters, but to fill your lives with adventure and to present riches at a price and so forth. So all of these things require that, I've got to give you complications. Like, I'm a fan of the characters, but they have to succeed at overcoming some challenge. Let's talk about the basic moves a little bit. Basic moves are hack and slash, for example, which is attacking somebody in melee. You roll plus strength. Interestingly, there's no initiative, and the bad guys never get to roll to attack. They get to attack you based on the results of your roll. So if Gavin kicks a goblin in the chest, trying to kick it away from him, and he rolls a 10 plus, the goblin doesn't get to attack back. If he rolls an 8, he'll deal his damage, and the goblin slashes at him with his dagger and does damage. And on a 6 or less, I get to decide what happens. If you attack at melee, it's plus dex. This is where ammo works a little bit like adventuring gear. If you have, let's say you have a bow and you have 5 ammo, that doesn't mean you have 5 shots. That means that you've got 5 ammo, and depending on what happens, you might end up having to expend 1. You might shoot somebody successfully and you don't spend any ammo. It's the number of times that you can decrement this thing, which is how many times you can get a 7 to 9 or worse, or some other way that I tell you you have to subtract 1 ammo. Defy danger, I'll come back to. Parley is the charisma move. When you have leverage on one of my characters and attempt to manipulate them, which is persuade, deceive, intimidate, all those things in one move. You just describe how you are manipulating them, and there's a result based on what happens there. The intelligence move is discern realities. Discern realities is so good. If you're taking a close look at a situation or a person, you roll plus wisdom, and then you get to ask 1 to 3 questions from a list. It's in the playbook that I gave you, based on how well you do. And it could be things like, what is about to happen? Who's really in control here? These sorts of things. Occasionally, some characters will have an addition to that move they can make, but normally that's the core. You know how in D&D somebody's like, would my character know about this thing? That is a move in D&D, in Dungeon World. See, I almost did it. You roll plus intelligence. If you succeed, I tell you something interesting and useful. If you get mixed success, I tell you something interesting. You have to figure out how to make it useful. And then if you miss, well, I get to do something. Aid or interfere is where bond happens. If somebody's like, I'm going to do this thing, and you're like, I'm going to help them. First of all, you can't just say, I helped them, right? You have to describe how you're helping them. And then you roll plus bond, which is you roll 2d6, and if you have a bond with them, you get to add 1 to that. But then you share in the potential failure or success of the person that you're helping. Defy danger is like a saving throw. If something bad is going to happen, or there's an imminent threat, and I ask you to defy danger, you tell me how you're going to defy it, and then that'll determine the stat that we use. And of course, in the fiction, that depends on what happens if you succeed or you fail. Right? It's very different to try to dodge out of the way of an oncoming log or a tree falling as it is to try to just endure through it and just be like, "Rrr!" I don't think any of your characters necessarily are the kinds who would do that, but I have played with characters who would be like, no, I just take it. And then defend, which is probably going to be most relevant to Gavin. When you try to defend somebody else, you roll plus con on that. And then you are different effects that you can get based on how well you do on that. Then there's special moves, and there's even a move for the end of the session, which is where we do XP and resolve bonds and those things. There's a specific move for taking watch, for carousing. So at the end of a long adventure, right, and everybody comes back and they throw a big party in the tavern, if they choose to, and they spend money on that, then interesting things can happen in the fiction. Maybe you get a new contact. Maybe you get rumors. Maybe you get entangled, ensorcelled, or tricked, depending on whether or not what you choose. One other thing, death saving throws are not really a thing, but kind of. If you get to 0 hit points, you roll 2d6 plus nothing. Death does not care how cool you are, how strong you are, who you know, how rich. You just roll 2d6. If you get a mixed success, death themselves offers you a deal that you may or may not wish to take. And it depends, again, what's happening in the fiction. Cool. And then as we go through these, we'll see some examples of how these work. So now we're going to take the break that I mentioned a few minutes ago. We'll come back to our adventure and let's see where things go. Cool?
Cracking.
All right. I want to take us over there, and we'll be back in a minute, y'all. Bye.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Not yet.
This seems really fun.
So, Morgan has grown a beard. No, I have to move everybody around. Welcome back. Hopefully. Hang on just a second.
Oh,
I'll
hey.
fix the
I'm Morgan.
Hello. Thank you.
I would like you all
Look,
to know
food
that
magically.
I screwed up. It's my
I used
fault.
conjure food and water.
Frosted
cheers, man.
Okay, let's see. Let's see.
Hi everybody, I'm playing Olive. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I get to play the Manic Pixie Girl now. Yes.
I'm here for this. Kyle thinks nothing.
That would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and hey, I'm playing Gavin. Just go around.
Ah,
I'm basically playing my real life job.
Pretty much.
I'm running around after all these kids, and they think that I'm 25, and that makes me really old.
I mean, I don't really have a good response to that because I'm 42.
Like, genuinely, I had a kid come up to me the other day and said, "Thanks, mister, for getting out of my way. I'm sorry I had to barge in front of an old person." I'm like, I'm not old. I'm 25. Stop making me feel old.
My nephew Moses came up to me and asked me how old I was, and then told me after I told him I was 23. He was like, "I thought you were so much older than my mom." I'm like,
Oh.
"You thought I was the older sister?"
Wow. That's
Okay.
little kids.
Children.
Little
Children.
kids. Little kids. They're the real CR25 monsters.
Yeah.
It's all psychic damage.
Irreparable psychic.
Yeah.
Although
Level
they can
20
do,
vicious
believe me
mockery.
when I say they can do some sneak attack. When you walk in the door and they are 3 years old and they want to run to you and give you a hug, and a man can regret that a moment later. I learned that when I opened the door to come in, I had to immediately turn to the side because I wanted to run up. Their head was right at waist high.
I had a kid who decided when I was holding this kid, it was only about 6 to 9 months old, I think, at the time, and basically his head full on headbutted me. Then my nose started bleeding. I was like,
Oops.
that happened. But of course, you can't do anything, because if you do anything, the kid starts crying. Like, I'm fine.
My niece did that the other day. I was holding her. She's 4 years old. I had to hold her in the car because her car seat broke, and so she had to sit on my lap. And she's just not having it. I swear she's like a goblin incarnate, and she's just biting me and kicking and screaming, and she just bams her head into my nose, and I'm like, "What the hell, child?"
So,
Welcome to Variant Roles, where we complain about children.
I love children. Anyway, so we have our characters made. We have a basic understanding of how moves work. By the way, I never roll the 2d6. None of my moves involve that. Sometimes I roll damage, depending on what happens, right? And that's about it. There's not much dice rolling for the GM here, which is a little bit sad sometimes. So, what I'm going to be using, as I mentioned, is a kind of a dungeon starter that just kind of gives me the initial framework. It gives me some questions to ask you, some impressions to give you of the area, a couple of special moves, a couple of monsters and things. But it's all going to, and we'll kind of mix and match and make things up as we go, which is a little bit terrifying as a GM, but we're going to make it work. Dungeon Roll, like a lot of Apocalypse World, like a lot of story games, is very improv heavy, right? So, you find yourselves on a place called Blood Beach. What I'm curious about, first of all, Gavin. Gavin, who did the lizard folk abduct? And why are you undertaking their rescue?
I'm gonna say the Smith's daughter.
Perfect.
And we're old pals because he helped me with my armor, getting that repaired. after I sort of stepped into this life as opposed to my old one, and I feel indebted
It's
to
very
him.
Colvillian of you. Hey, Morgan. How did you learn about Blood Beach? Sorry, Morgan. Olive. Sorry.
How did I learn about Blood Beach? Well, I have definitely read stories about it. I never dreamed that I would ever be here, but when I heard that Gavin was coming, I had to tag along.
Fantastic. Hey, Brody. What experience do you have as a jungle explorer?
Well, like, there's a few, like, jungle trees on my island, but aside from that, it's, like, not much. I'm just used to, like, you know, the waves and the ocean and the sand between my toes, but that's about it.
Roderick, what past history as a sailor do you have with lizard folk?
We don't run into them on the boats very often, but when we go to shore, they're in some areas. They're things we have to look out for. You know, always looking for that buried treasure. And of course, they always want me to go to shore with them, but I don't like the dirt.
Hey, Gavin, you worship the Lady of Scales, who has some connection to lizard folk. What what connections do you have with the lizard folk that live on these islands?
I think it goes back into my old days, my previous life. I both recruited and punished them if they didn't adhere to some things that I laid down, some rules. So,
What kind of rules? And how are you the authority over them?
particularly taxes and goods and anything that they came upon. Really, I got my pick of back in the day.
What authority were you under when you were doing that?
My own.
Okay. All right. So Gavin was an extortionist against the lizard people. That's what we just learned.
Mm-hmm.
That's how these worlds are built in Dungeon World. We just figured out that Gavin's previous life was basically the lizard folk mob.
Apparently.
Okay.
He made them offers they couldn't refuse.
So as you pull up in your small ship, you can hear the crash of the surf on the rocks here at the head of the cove. The sea itself is blue-green under a bright white sun. You can smell the salt in the air, but it's very humid, almost like feeling like a shroud around you. And as you draw closer to Blood Beach, you look up and you see giant flying lizards with long, thin beaks and a horn out of the back of their head. And they're kind of just circling. They're not birds. They have leathery wings. And as you look ahead at the beach as you're getting close, the beach itself, the sand is rust-colored. And then just beyond a relatively, a fairly wide beach, you see this intense green of primeval jungle. And the blue waters lapping up against this rust-colored sand. What do you do?
I'd like to contemplate those flying lizard people, if that's okay, and like, you know, study them if possible.
Okay. So it sounds like you're trying to invoke the Discern Realities move. So why don't you give us 2d6 plus your wisdom?
Alright, which is, my wisdom is +2. Yeah, that would be 10.
All right. So That's just full six. You get to ask 3 questions from the list. What happened here recently? What's about to happen? What should I be on the lookout for? What here is useful or valuable to me? Who's really in control here? Or what here is not what it appears to be? And
Okay,
you're kind of
okay.
like, so you're kind of looking closely at them, peering up into the bright sky. The sun's a little bit in your eyes as you're doing that. And you're taking some time to do
Yeah.
this. So which of those questions do you ask?
Like, so be like, bro, what's about to happen?
Well, these creatures that are flying above you, you look at them and you realize they're starting to circle lower and lower and lower toward you, as if they're getting ready to kind of land on the deck of your ship.
Okay, like, bro, like, who's really in control here?
You are definitely not in any area that's controlled by any particular civilized people or any people in general. You are in the freest and rawest of nature. These creatures answer to no one and nothing except their own primeval instincts.
Okay. And, like, bro, what should we be looking out for?
While you're staring up in the sky, looking at them, but you're also kind of attuned to the ocean itself here. And as you look further out, or as you're kind of glancing, you can see kind of past them into the ocean, and occasionally you can't quite see it, but you can't quite see what it is, but something very large occasionally kind of crusts a little bit in the water several leagues away. But there is something there that's very, very large.
Alright. Thanks, bro.
And so another small mechanic thing. You take +1 forward when acting on the answers. That means if you do something that is directly related to what you just learned, then you get to add an additional +1 to whatever you roll for that.
Okay. Cool beans.
So
I think
you
I'm
all
gonna
see
s-
these
oh,
things
go ahead.
spinning lower. What do you do?
I'm gonna spend a little bit of time in prayer, just to ask the Lady of Scales to guide our hand in this journey and this quest. Maybe try to figure out what's evil here.
So first of all, in terms of what is evil, as you close your eyes, you see before you, in your vision, you see the figure of a human female. You recognize this as the Lady of Scales. She is human, but where her arms come from under her tunic, she has these scaly arms, and she's holding up scales of justice. And you can see some of these creatures landing in your vision on the plates there, and it stays balanced. And in your mind, she is telling you that these creatures are neither good nor evil. They simply are. They are simply nature. But whatever. And then you see around them kind of sprouting up the jungle itself. And the jungle itself is well balanced. But suddenly one of the plates moves down, as to indicate that there is something in the jungle that is evil. But you have not gotten close enough to yet understand what it might be.
Gotcha. That was awesome. Thank you for that.
I would like to use one of my moves, Bardic Lore. And so when I first encounter an important creature, location, or item, in this case a location, I can ask the GM any one question about it. And my Bardic Lore I chose was Legends of the Heroes Past. So this would be if any like legends of past heroes have traveled to Blood Beach. And I also get to know what that story was and what the name of the story was and what happened in it.
Okay. I'm so glad that you did this for real. When you first encounter an important, so you're about the location. You're asking about Blood Beach.
Talking about Blood Beach, and my specific lore that I have is Legends of Heroes Past. So it would be specifically about heroes who have traveled to Blood Beach before.
Yes. So you know of an epic poem about a paladin named Serena who in the story traveled to Blood Beach, and even though the sands themselves flamed as if like fire, she was unharmed because she was herself a holy fire serving the iron choir of angels. And that what she encountered when she fought here were giant monsters, the likes no one has seen before nor since. Roderick, you have a question?
No, that was just me emoting.
Start like plucking at the strings of my old mandolin and reciting some of the poem.
In fact, in your recollection, not only was she unharmed by the fire, the reason was that she went there was her own hair was red, but it wasn't just red hair. Her hair was itself flame. This is actually a paladin in my Wednesday night Dungeon World game.
That's pretty.
Oh, okay. So.
But you know that the sands are very hot, and there were giant, and according to the story, there were giant monsters here.
Okay.
What do you do?
Who's up for an adventure?
Always.
Let's do this. Let's go that way though, because I get a feeling there's something bigger in the water.
So we should get to the beach then.
Yeah, like soon.
As you're doing that, those flying creatures are getting closer and closer. And now, they're not like right there where you could actually reach them. But they're only 10 or 20. You can hear their tail.
Can I spout lore about them? I want to know how dangerous they are?
You wanting to know what you might know about them, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, roll 2d6 plus your intelligence.
That is 8 plus 2 for 10.
Okay. So I'll tell you something interesting and useful about them. Interestingly, you know that these were thought to be long extinct. They are related to birds, but they themselves are actually reptiles known as pterosaurs. And usefully, you know that these particular ones are indeed carnivorous. And not just carrion eaters like vultures would be.
They hunger for man flesh.
Well, for flesh.
Eyes up, fellows. Those things are going to enjoy our bodies if they get the chance.
Well, then we should land this thing in shore as soon as possible.
Okay. Would it be possible for me to study their essence, which is a druidy thing I can do?
I think as part of the discern realities you were doing, absolutely.
Okay. Perfect. Because then I can add that to the shapes I can shift into.
Woot.
Nice.
That's good.
Oh.
Its name is on the list. Ugh. So, like, guys, like, we can either park the ship up, which will take time, and there's that thing behind us, or, you know, I can give us the expressway onto the beach.
I believe we want to be able to get back on the ship afterwards.
I can get us back after if needs be. Like, I'm willing to go with the flood.
Does the ship we're on have like an anchor system?
Yes.
Okay. Sure then. Drops anchor.
Okay. I am going to shapeshift into a pterosaur
Delightful.
with frosted tips.
With
Or two.
okay, so
Wingtips. Frosted wingtips.
Frosted wingtips.
I'm gonna also say that the little horn at the back of their head also is a little bit kind of
Yeah.
glowy. So,
So I need to roll.
so you call upon the spirits to change your shape. Roll plus 2d6 plus your wisdom modifier.
Which is 2. Oh yes, that's a 14.
So you get 3 hold. Now, hold is a special currency, sort of, in Dungeon World that you can spend to do things from that particular move. You can't spend hold on other things. So you can't spend this hold on the hold from the stand and defense move.
Okay.
You have any innate abilities and weaknesses of this, so you can fly. You still use your normal stats, but it might be harder to trigger some things. Because, for example, Hack and Slash assumes that you can actually do damage in melee to a creature. So, for example, if you just tried to, a normal person, if they just tried to go up and punch a rhinoceros, it's not Hack and Slash. It doesn't trigger the move because you kind of going to hurt a rhino by punch. I'm not going to hurt a rhino by punching it. Maybe like Muhammad Ali would have or whatever. I don't know. But then you can have one or more moves associated with your new form, and you can spend 1 hold to make that move. So anything in particular that a pterosaur would do, you can spend 1 hold to try to do. So, for example, we're going to say that your special move. So we're going to say these pterosaurs have maybe like a 6-foot wingspan. These leathery wings. To try to fly away with prey would be a move. And we'll say they have particularly good vision to spot their prey from high up. So if you wanted to look far into the distance, that would be a move.
Okay. Right.
And all of you see him, it's like Animorphs. It just sort of, he stretches out his arms, his face elongates, and now he's kind of sitting there crouched on the deck of the ship. And the other pterosaurs notice, and you hear their squawking getting more insistent as they're very confused right now. What do you do?
I'm honestly not entirely sure what his plan was.
Me neither. That's great.
Brody is
No, I'd say that in character, by the way.
no, I know. Brody is insistent on showing off sometimes. How
Can I
does he
write-
plan to get us to shore?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, can I approach Brody and like basically like motion like may I ride you? But it's like, it's all like this like moment where I'm just like walking towards him and I'm like touching his head.
You're a
like,
human,
trying to-
right?
Huh?
You're a human, right?
Yes.
It might, for him to fly carrying you might be a little bit heavy, like if you were trying to ride a hawk or a very large owl or something.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
But let's see. I'll tell you what. Here's what we'll do. We'll model this as a defined. The danger being
Yeah.
that you're unable to take. In fact, you'd be almost pinned to the deck. But you can try a defy danger if you want her to be. If you want to be able to carry her based on your strength.
I have a question.
Yes.
Would it be easier for him to carry her in his talons? You know, like prey.
He could do that. He could spend a hold to carry her like prey.
Okay.
I'm assuming then we said she's shorter and rounder, but if she's shorter, then maybe she's not so heavy that it might be a little bit of work, but that's what spending the hold is for.
I would
Okay.
just like to point out that that's not going to work for me. I've got lots of armor, and we might still need to take the boat to shore.
Well, you're,
Oh, no. I was just planning on going for a ride because that sounded like fun.
Olive, I think that might not be currently our best course of action. I think that's something we could do later on an off day
But
during
But
downtime.
I might point out that I could, if maybe like have some amazing swashbuckling kind of like fight up there in the sky against one of those other monsters, and like it'd be epic.
Yeah, this.
as you're
Roger,
saying
back
that,
me up here.
one of them.
She pulls out her rapier clumsily.
That's good because as you say that, one of the pterosaurs flying up there dives on you, and you're gonna need to defy danger in some way as it's trying to bite you on Olive.
Is there a way I can get in the way of that?
Yeah,
defense,
you
right?
absolutely can. So roll plus con.
Okay, roll plus con. Con is +1. That is a 7.
Okay, you get one hold to either redirect an attack from the thing you defend to yourself, to have an attack's effect or damage, open up the attacker to an ally to give that ally +1 forward, or just deal damage to the attacker equal to your level.
I think I'm gonna take the damage.
Okay.
Put myself in harm's way to activate my good alignment.
Okay. So this pterosaur is
protect
diving
someone
on you.
weaker.
You see it coming. You jump in the way. And so now, as it's scratching and clawing and biting, it's gonna do 3 damage. The way damage works and armor works in Dungeon World is whatever your armor is, you just subtract that from the damage you take each time.
Okay.
So if you have 1
So-
armor, every time I tell you, I know you have more. Let's say that you had 1 armor, and I say you take 3 damage, you just take 2.
Yeah. So I have 2 from my armor +1 from shield. So actually,
So
don't
you
take
just
any
fend it off.
damage.
Yeah, so it's unable to get through your metal shield and your metal armor, and it's flapping its wings. And the others now see that the attack has become, and they're diving in. What do you all do?
Can I spring into action, and I'm gonna try something kind of dumb. I'm gonna suppress mutation because I can make illusions, but that they're obviously illusions to people, but these are animals.
Right.
So I'm gonna make a crude ring of fire above us.
I fell into a burning ring of fire. It went down, down, down,
down.
The flames
Burning
went
ring of
higher.
fire.
No, come on! None of you know. Minor. You can create minor illusions, no bigger than yourself. Okay, so it's a ring, but it's a thin ring. Okay.
Yeah. But it's supposed to look really painful.
Right. So, in order for you to cast a spell,
I need to roll,
you
right?
need to roll. Right. So this is a cantrip, which just
Yes.
means that you always have it prepared.
Yeah.
So you roll plus intelligence.
Bloop. That is a 7.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry. I rolled a 7. That's a 9.
Okay. So the spell is cast, but you choose one. Either you draw unwelcome attention or put yourself in a spot, or the spell disturbs the fabric of reality as it's cast. Take -1 ongoing to cast the spell until the next time you prepare spells. And the next one, you can't forget a cantrip, so it's not gonna.
So I think I'm gonna draw unwelcome attention to myself.
Oh, that's great. That's the best one. So, and you don't want to take the -1 ongoing for just at the start of the adventure. So all of you see this half. No, he's not the halfling. The halfling is Brody. As Roderick holds up his hands, and flame shoots out for a moment in like this circling ring among them. It's not obviously. It's not actual flame, but they are beasts, and they interpret this as a threat, and now they are diving on you because you've drawn their attention. What do you do?
Yeah.
And when I say you, I mean all of you. You don't have to wait for. There's no initiative here. This is just a conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
I'm going to use one of my holds to fly away with prey, and I'm going to fly away with Broderick away towards the jungle.
Okay, so you're not okay. So
I'm seeing it as he's the threat. I'm taking the threat away from everybody.
right, this is good. So the other pterosaurs they're confused, but they're not that intelligent. So they just see you flapping away with Roderick. So you spend a hold to do this.
Yeah.
He is a little bit heavy, so I will ask you to defy danger with strength.
I will note I have minimum con for possible.
Okay.
That's good. So use your strength. So just roll 2d6 plus your strength.
My strength. Okay. That's 9 plus 1 is 10.
Okay, yeah. He's a little bit heavy, but you managed not to drop him in the sea. And now you are getting over to the beach. What are the other two of you doing?
Well, I'm hacking the one that has attacked us, so or that is like
All right.
on my shield. So I'm gonna hack and slash.
All right, so you're slashing with your sword. Give us a hack and slash roll.
That's with strength, right? Strength, right?
Yep.
That is an 11.
All right, you deal your damage to the enemy and avoid their attack. Also, you can choose to do an extra d6 damage, but expose yourself to their attack.
Yeah, I think I'll do that. So that's a D10 plus 6, a D6.
So for everybody watching, by the way, your weapon doesn't affect how much damage you do. I mean, it does. It can have a little bonus, but it doesn't affect your damage dice. Your damage dice are based on your class because it affects how well you know how to use it. So
that's
Gavin using a sword does D10. If the wizard were using the same sword, he would only get to roll a D4 because he doesn't know how to use it as well.
That damage is 10 on the D10 and 2 on the D6. So
All right. So you get in close with this thing, and you are slashing away with your sword. It does bite back at you, probably ineffectually, because it only does 1 hit point, and you have 3 armor. So
yep.
you just smash it with your shield, and now this thing is just splayed out dead on the deck, and the other pterosaurs start to squawk even more loudly. What do you all do?
There's the one that he's hacking and slashing us. That's like basically at our boat, just like trying to attack us, right?
So that was the one that had landed. There are several more that were descending on Roderick until Brody plucked him out of there. But there are a handful more of these pterosaurs there.
Oh, I'm sure there are, but Olive only really pays attention to like what's right in front of her at any given time. So, I'm going to attempt to do a thing. I'm going to attempt to do arcane art and weave a performance into a basic spell to try and add damage to an attack, and then I want to attack, basically.
So, okay.
Is that how that works? That's what I'm reading.
You choose an ally and an effect. So
Is
you
it
got to
choose an
boost
ally?
somebody else.
Oh, I choose an ally. That's even better. So then I choose Terran. Then I don't actually have to put myself in that much danger.
Okay.
So as much as Olive would definitely do that. I choose
Gavin.
Inspire Gavin, and I start singing and dancing and basically being a little cheerleader as he's fighting.
It's fantastic. Okay.
By my old man Grump.
Yeah.
It's pretty inspiring.
So
I'm actually singing one of basically a reprise of one of the old tunes that were sang about you back when you were the villain of the stories, but changing the lyrics to fit the current situation.
Ooh,
I
nice.
like it.
all right. Sis boom ba, Gavin, tear up that pterosaur. Roll plus charisma, please.
Yes, that is that's an 8.
Okay. So your spell works, but you draw. But there's a cost to it that I get to pick. So you're cheering. The magic reverberates around you, and all of you can almost see the magic echoing into the pterosaurs as well, and they also are going to get the extra damage bonus. So Gavin, you get an extra D4 to your damage, but the pterosaurs are, you can see their chomping jaws getting even more energetic and them flapping down towards you, and now they're diving on you. What do you do?
They're diving on me.
Yeah, Gavin, they're diving on you. Or perhaps what do one of the rest of you do? We're going to come back to where Brody and Roderick are. So, yeah, what do you do?
I am gonna touch myself and invoke invisibility.
Wait.
Finishing that
While
sentence.
you're being carried to the beach, you're going to invoke visibility?
On myself. So
Okay.
it looks like he's just a bird flying through the air. Well, a bird, quote unquote.
Okay, right. Okay, so roll your cast a spell move.
Let's do it. That is 11.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely, that works. For sure.
Now, and I'm like, okay. Maybe like, all right, now just let me down on the beach. I'll be okay.
Okay. So you're coming into the beach. Gavin, what are you doing as these things are diving on you?
Let me think, because we're playing in some Fast and Loose narrative stuff here. Gosh, I wish I had a little bit. I have my adventuring gear. Is there any way I could use like a torch to like a quick ignite and then wave it at them to try and like scare them off?
Yeah. So you're gonna have to defy danger. How you can certainly light it. You're gonna have to defy the danger of them diving on you. And this sounds like quick thinking
Okay.
because you definitely went in a different direction. So you can roll plus intelligence for your.
Yes. I don't have that.
That's good. No, this is fantastic.
That's an 11 though.
Wow. What was your intelligence modifier?
0. I rolled a 6 and a 5.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So between the fire in the air, between the fire in your hand, they are certainly dissuaded from attacking you. And at this point, this is way more trouble. They are spending way more energy on this prey than they had intended. And they've already lost one, so they start to fly away. Roderick and Brody, as you come in to the beach, and Roderick, as soon as you land, what are you wearing, Roderick?
So I have leather armor, and then I have sailor's garb. You know, a tunic and a sailor's jacket and the usual shit.
Interesting. You're wearing leather armor.
Yes, it was one of the options.
Wow, that's very cool. Well, as you can, it doesn't hurt you, but you can, as you land this rust-colored sand that's here baking in the white sun, you're really glad you're wearing shoes because that sand is hot. It's not like flaming hot, but you're looking down and you can kind of hear the
Little, you could cook an egg on it.
pretty much, yeah. It's like a sidewalk in Texas in August.
Yeah. Oof.
And as you're looking up, you can see standing just inside the tree line a whole group of lizard folk watching you.
Well, I'm invisible.
Oh yeah, sorry. They're watching the pterosaur with the frosted tips, but it's odd because as the pterosaur came in, they could see boot prints in the sand and see the tss, tss, and they're very confused. They don't know what that means.
Is there any way I can like scare them off from the tree line?
So you want to fly flapping at them?
Yeah, I go.
Okay. Yeah, so you're flying at them on. You don't need to spend a hold to do that. You're just kind of
Yeah.
flying at them, and one of them hefts a spear in her hand. I need you to defy danger in some way. That spear is coming flying towards you.
Okay.
If you're going to try to get out of the way, you can do it with Dex, but if you want to do
Okay.
something else, you certainly can.
Okay, I'm gonna try it with Dex. That's a 7.
Okay. So, 7 on Defy Danger means the following. It means that you stumble, hesitate, or flinch. I offer you a worse outcome, hard bargain, or ugly choice. So the angle that this spear is coming at you, you realize you are directly between the lizard folk and Roderick. And if you dive out of the way, it's going to hit Roderick.
Ooh. I'm gonna get in the way of Roderick. Like,
Okay. So then you're going to...
imagine like slow motion, like bodyguard, like.
Get down, Mr. President! Okay.
I was just thinking that, Kyle. Thank you.
I mean, it's the meme, right? Right. So now, this is, again, I get to, one of the few times I get to roll damage. And you're going to take 6 damage from the spear.
Okay. That's.
So
So you
here's
don't leave your paladin on the boat.
So
I'm glad it wasn't me, because that's half my hit points.
remember, you subtract your armor from it.
Oh yeah, I'm not wearing armor.
I will. So let me look at something on your playbook here.
Yeah, I'm making a choice not to wear armor. I'm just wearing like swim shorts.
Does bird form get armor?
Yeah, does.
That's what I was. But no, you use your normal stats.
Yeah. You get the professions you have the innate abilities and weaknesses of the forms, like claws, wings, gills, breathing at water instead of air.
Yeah.
Stats. So yeah, I'm just going to take 6 points off that total. That was.
This
I
is
didn't-
suddenly
right.
sick.
I'm imagining this is like that scene from Game of Thrones where Viserion's getting shot by an arrow. It's like,
Going back to the ship, now that you've scared them off, Olive and Gavin, what are you doing back on the ship now that you've split the party?
Well, it's not like I'm gonna be able to swim, so I'm gonna look at Olive and then like walk over and start pulling the anchor up.
So you could have, this is a small ship, you could have a small,
Rowboat.
rowboat or something to swim to row to shore. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
and if
we
have
got
that,
a boat.
We gotta
Yeah.
take a good hard look.
Olive, I think we should probably get over there. It's not good to be away from them. I can't heal them from here. So.
Absolutely. And she puts her rapier clumsily back into its sheath and walks
Cuts her own
over.
belt off.
Yeah. And walks over to the rowboat.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll take that over then.
Okay. As you're getting closer, you can see now emerging from the tree line, you can see a dozen lizard folk coming out, and they are all peering at the pterosaur that's now kind of laying on the beach bleeding. And you don't see Roderick anywhere. What do the four of you? What do you do?
I'm.
Well, we
gonna-
rowed ashore, and so Brody in bird form is on the beach, right?
Right. So as you're getting to the beach, you see Brody in pterosaur form. You don't see Roderick,
Mm-hmm.
and Brody is hurt. The pterosaur is
The-
hurt.
The pterosaur was in front of me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I get out of the rowboat as soon as we land, and I start running, and I'm running through sand, and she's already a clumsy person, so I imagine that she's just like running awkwardly, falling over, trying to get to.
Oh, and that sand is burning hot.
It's burning hot, and she's falling into it. She's like, it's hitting her knees. It doesn't stop her. She's trying to get to her friend. She's like bawling her eyes out. It's ugly crying. She's a mess. And I don't know if you'll give this to me, but I think it'd be hilarious if she trips over Roderick there. But
Yeah. So she does a little pratfall, right? A little bit of a somersault, and she's not going to take any damage, any actual damage, maybe to her pride, if any.
yeah.
And Roderick,
As
you feel her trip over you.
As she trips over me, I'm gonna whisper to her, "Just now play along," and I'm going to get like right behind the pterosaur and be like, "All right, now like move your beak and shit." I'm like, and I'm going to claim, "You have wounded." Oh my God, Tim's face! You have wounded the Grand Pterosaur Frostgarm. You have incurred damage upon this holy relic and on my personage, and you must flee before my frosted breath.
Olive, knowing exactly where this is going, starts kneeling down and bowing. Oh, Frostlore! Frostalore!
Okay. So
Evan's
here,
getting back in the boat and is rowing out to sea.
he's like, nope,
He's
nope,
just
nope.
like, I forgot how much I hate this job. No, he's like slowly walking along the beach, just
I'm a-
sighing, face palming.
I'm assuming I have to roll for something.
Yeah. So so here's how we're gonna handle this. First of all, Olive is attempting to aid Roderick. So Olive, that's a roll. You roll plus bond. So you two have a bond. So you roll 2d6 plus 1. When you help someone, roll plus bond. On a 10 plus, he'll get a plus 1 or a minus 2. Your choice. On a 7 through 9, they'll still get the modifier, but you expose yourself to danger, retribution, or cost. So roll 2d6 plus 1.
That's a 5.
Okay. So mark XP,
Okay.
and now, and then I'll factor that into what happens. So now, Roderick, you are. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is Brody also helping me, or is that something entirely different?
I think it's something. Yeah, I guess he kind of, because he's doing the whole act. So yeah, you could roll 2d6 plus 1 as well there, Brody.
All right. Yeah, no, that's a straight 6.
This is fantastic.
I'm injured. What do you expect?
Fair.
We're all alone on this island.
So mark experience,
Okay.
and now you are defying danger. I'm gonna say, Roderick.
With quick thinking?
The thing is
Yeah.
that you're kind of using your ability to sound like. Yeah, we'll go with quick thinking. That's fine. You are acting despite an imminent threat. So roll plus intelligence.
That's an 8. I
Okay.
rolled 1 on one of the dice. I'm like, oh no.
It still works, right?
So he stumbles, hesitates, or flinches. The GM will offer him a worse outcome, hard bargain, or ugly choice.
Whatever those words mean.
Right. So in this case, you stumble, hesitate, or flinch. The GM will offer you a worse outcome, hard bargain, or ugly choice. And keep it in mind that there were 2 aid rolls that failed. Right? The lizard folk, one of them, who is a little bit larger than the others, steps forward and speaks in your tongue, and is speaking to Brody and says, "You sound like prey to me. Step forward and we will duel to the death." So, Roderick, you can either choose to reveal yourself or let this lizard folk champion try to duel the pterosaur that is your friend.
Can I guess we gotta wait for this move to resolve, but I got something I want to do next.
Okay.
Olive just kind of like nudges where she knows that Roderick is, and just kind of like elbows him.
I
And-
have an idea, but I'll wait to see what Nat does.
Alright, I'm going to step forward and reveal myself and say, "Pray I be not, for that is your job."
All right. So the rest of you see, it's like the the heat shimmer you see on a hot day. It looks like a heat shimmer, and then it coalesces into the form of your friend, and you hear a murmur go up from the lizard folk. Gavin, there was something that you wanted to do, and then I'll come to Brody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna step forward. I really haven't said or done anything at this point with these lizard folk, but I'm gonna have I lift up my shield and it's got this like etching of the scale on it, and I think behind that is like this etching of like actual scales. So that's kind of the look it has. It's a shield of the Lady of Scales, and I'm gonna say, by the right of the Lady of Scales, forgiveness and justice. Back down, go home.
So
And
this is.
I am the law.
Oh, you're invoking I am the law.
I am.
Ooh.
I am the law.
I am the law.
Yep.
So roll plus charisma.
So that is just a 7. So
Okay. On a 7 plus, they choose one. Do what you say. Back away cautiously, then flee, or attack you.
yep.
Had it been a 10 plus, they would take you would take +1 forward against them.
Yeah.
In this case, I'll say they back away cautiously, then flee. But you notice that the champion that had stepped forward stares at you and then looks over at Olive, who had stumbled up, and just lets out this low, throaty growl. All right, Brody, what are you doing?
I'm gonna fly and pick him up. I'm flying, yeah, straight up.
Who are you picking up?
I'm
The
gonna
lizard
fly
folk.
towards the champion who's just making that growling. I'm gonna pick him up and fly in the air using one of my holds as a pterosaur.
Is this your second or third hold?
This is my second hold.
Okay. Yeah, now, he's pretty beefy. So for you to do that, yeah, you're going to have to defy danger using your strength.
Okay. That's a 6.
Yeah, so you're trying to grasp him, and he just sees a pterosaur that was trying to talk to him, and then he saw Roderick, and instead he jabs at you again with a spear, and you're going to take... I'll look and see which damage die to roll. 1 damage
Oh, that's not so
as he
bad.
fends you off with the spear. What do you do?
Try bite his head off. Try bite his head.
Okay, that's a hack and slash. So roll plus
Okay.
strength.
Okay, so that's +1 again. Ooh, that's an 11.
No, you deal your damage.
That's through with the D6, I believe. Yeah, D6. That's a 2. There's no modifiers, is there?
No, not unless you have
No.
something that gives you a modifier to
No,
it.
no. That's a 2 then.
You go. What you got, Roderick?
If he's still existent, I was gonna blast him with pure magical energy.
Do it. Oh yeah. He just took 2 little damage. That's
All right.
and he's still up.
That's a cast a spell. That's a fail. That's a 6.
That's so good. So not so good, but it makes things interesting. So
I was trying to invoke a magic missile, which for Roderick expresses as like a roiling ghost flame as it flies through the air.
So instead, it flies. You cast the spell, but you lose control of it, and it flies past into the vegetation, and a fire starts there in the jungle. So it's not huge yet, like just a boom right there. what do you all do?
We started a forest fire.
Well, it hasn't spread yet. It's a wet, humid jungle.
I was supposed to make magical energy that looked like fire. I accidentally made fire. Sorry, people.
Well done, Roderick.
Olive, we're gonna have to work on your definition of well done. So
She means like the steak.
Do I
I
mark?
mean, objectively, this could have gone way worse.
I'm
I'm
gonna
right side here.
expend all my holds and shift back to my normal form.
Okay, so suddenly there's a halfling with frosted tips in leopard print swimsuit standing in front of the lizard folk, and that lizard folk is very confused now, and you hear him kind of shriek, "Ah!"
Sup, bro? Hey, how's it hanging?
Low and loose
Okay.
and full of juice. What are you?
Oh, I'm not halfling, dude.
What brings you to Blood Beach?
I'm going to, knowing that we're here to try and save the blacksmith's daughter, I'm going to spout lore about saying, hey, you know, like we're here to save like this blacksmith's daughter who was, you know, taken, and we got told she was here, so now we're here to come save her. We're trying to do it like as soon as possible. Are you understanding me?
So that's not so. Spout lore is when you are trying
Sorry.
to figure out if what your character knows about something.
All right, sorry.
So that's like it's like you know. So like in D&D terms, for example, a history check might
Alright,
be
okay.
a spout
Alright.
lore, or to know about
So-
the nature of an area.
My bad. So this be then. Would this be considered parlay?
So so are you trying to convince him of something or manipulate him to something?
Yeah, I'm trying to convince him, like, no, we're not actually here to kill them, despite the fact we've been trying to attack them.
Okay, despite how you've been acting so far.
We're just defending ourselves.
Huh. So that's one way to look at it. So yeah, no, that's okay.
not
That's
really the
partly.
right way.
So you can roll plus charisma.
Oh, that's 8 minus 1, so 7.
Okay. He looks at all of you, especially at Gavin, who's holding up a holy symbol that he recognizes, and Olive with her rapier that is kind of wavering in the air.
I put it away.
Okay. Even better. He says, "Drop your weapons, and I will take you to our chief."
That's fine. I'm not carrying any weapons, so, you know.
Your friends.
Oh! You want them to drop it? Okay. Like,
I need them to do that right now.
right now. But right now was like a minute ago. So
Do not trifle with me.
I'm not trifling. I'm just pointing out the inaccuracies in like the system of the flow of life.
Brody.
Yeah. Oh, Ixnay on the Arguay, eh?
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm gonna say you're gonna have to defy danger now based on charisma.
Okay.
Delightful.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, 6.
You hear he lifts his head up, turns towards the jungle, and says, "Perhaps we should exchange sacrifices."
Oh, you're the sacrificer? Oh.
And you see the lizard folk come out. Quite a few more. A couple of the smaller ones, but they start putting out that fire that was inadvertently started. And they, as they bring forth the smith's daughter, she's not bound. She's not tied up or anything like that. She's just kind of in a daze. She's got actually chunks of bloody meat strapped to her arms and legs.
Wow. Like, hey, we found the blacksmith star, guys.
And
Something tells me that ties in with the big thing in the water.
and the most of the lizard folk are dressed in leather type, not leather type armor, or in a few cases like armor made from what you would kind of think of as wooden armor, but made from the trees and bamboo and so forth. But there is one lizard folk who wears nothing, who's just unarmored, carries no weapons, simply has a belt and a conch strapped to that belt.
Nothing. The belt's not holding anything up. Is that
Just the conch.
just the conch? Got it.
Yeah, it's like a utility belt. It's not like holding up lizard pants.
Yeah. I was just trying to make sure I got the right mental
Right.
image.
Naked lizard man.
And the
yeah.
lizard says,
Wait, is the conch like in a strategically placed area?
Is it
no, on the
PG?
side.
Guys, it's a cloaca.
Yeah, the lizards. I've been using he and she, but really they're all pretty much them. They don't have obvious secondary
Yeah.
sexual characteristics,
Yeah.
No.
and or nor primary. To Nat's point. So this one lizard folk, they come out and they cross their arms. As chieftain, Stress bids you welcome to Blood Beach. If you would exchange sacrifices, do it now.
I have a proposal. I'm gonna look at
Speak,
that, the big dude.
Holy One.
So
Look
do
at the big
I.
guy.
But
I
you do-
think we should fight, and the loser is the sacrifice.
Roll plus charisma as you are challenging a lizard folk champion to a duel to the death on Blood
Level
Beach.
6s, y'all.
Yeah.
That's a 13.
Okay.
Get him.
So the chieftain looks over to the one that you were fighting with a moment ago.
Is my spell that I cast on Gavin still active?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So you still get that 1d4 extra damage.
I think so. So the chieftain looks over at the champion and says, Thrask, do you... No, actually, that's not how the chieftain sounds. Thrask, do you accept? So the champion that you were fighting a moment ago grins at you, and you can see just this whole jaw of teeth. Oh yes, I accept. And the lizard folk now begin their preparations. They take the chunks of meat that were strapped with vines and reeds and so forth off of the blacksmith, but she's still kind of just in a daze, just kind of standing there, a little bit wobbly, just.
Can I detect magic on her?
Sure.
Hang on.
Yeah.
So you're casting a spell, right?
Yeah. That's 11.
Okay. And so what? Let's see what.
I just one of your senses is briefly attuned to magic. The GM will tell you what here is magical.
Oh, the what here
I'm thinking-
is
I'm thinking
magical.
As a pirate, I'm thinking I can smell it. The wind came to me.
I feel really dumb. I just realized that one of the d6s I was using is 1 to 3 on all sides.
Oops.
All right, no, you're not.
Are you for real right now?
No.
Is that true?
No, it
You've
was a
been
D6,
goofing
but
yourself?
it was a D6, but it had a 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 3s.
You've been
That's a
goofing
D3.
yourself.
That is amazing.
You tied your own legs together. What is this?
I can play this game with an arm to hide behind my back.
Apparently.
This is amazing. So, sorry about that. Roderick, what does it look like when you cast this spell? You said you're smelling it?
Yeah, the wind carries what is magical to me.
So apart from your friends, nothing. There's no magic on her. There's no magic on the conch. You don't smell any magic from the lizard folk. Apart from your friends who have some magic swirling about them. Brody, what do you got?
I want to use like my poultice and herbs to see if it's like trying to play like a what's it called? I'm assuming it's like an antidote kind of thing. If she's like under the effects of some kind of drugs.
It could. So normally poultices and herbs are used to kind of relatively slowly cure someone, but I think that could make sense here. So you walk up, and tell me how you're applying them to her.
Okay, so I'm getting up a shell from the beach. If there's any shells.
Oh yeah, everywhere.
I'm getting up 2 shells, and I'm getting some like herbs and stuff that I've got like in my pants, like on the outside in pockets, not on the inside. And I'm gonna like kind of use the 2 shells like a pestle and mortar to like make it into a paste kind of thing, and then just like take a dab of it on my finger and slide it on a tongue.
Okay, so it takes a few minutes. She breathes it in, and after a minute, her eyes start to clear, and she looks around.
Hey, no, I'm good. Like, hey, I'm Brody. Nice to meet you. Do you want to go walk over to where the other humans are and don't look behind you?
As soon as you, but there's
Don't
people
behind
all
me.
around. She's like,
Yeah, don't look behind you. Just go
But-
towards the humans.
"These are my friends.
They're what?
These are my friends."
You're gonna have to repeat that to me, because like they're you.
Pals, buddies, chums.
I hate to break it to you, but like, if your friends are trying to kill you, they're not really your friends.
Kill me? No way. We just been having a party here.
Oh, what have you been on?
What?
Like, you were really like glazed over.
I don't know what you mean, but you're really harshing my mellow right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Like, you know, gotta keep it like balanced and stuff. I'm so sorry.
Okay. And
So
she
it's
looks
like-
and she
it's
sees
like
though,
casually
she
made.
sees, even though they took everything off of her, there's still like streaks of, whatever the bloody meat was that was tied to her. What happened to my arms? I don't think I'm bleeding from it.
Oh no, they tied like meat to you.
Was I wearing a meat suit?
More
Have you
like,
ever been
more
a
like-
lady?
Yeah.
Like what?
Like-
Have you ever been called a lady?
Are you going gaga?
Sorry, that's all that was.
Oh, I didn't know where I was like.
Valued. I slammed it in.
She's
Oh.
I'm gonna approach the blacksmith's daughter and Brody as they're having this conversation and just kind of like put a hand on her shoulder and just kind of talk to her and console her and really just be a girlfriend that she needs right now, because like she's been through a lot.
You're
and
so
I'm
great.
Hold her
I
hair
know,
back.
right?
You're so sweet.
I know, and I know you said that there wasn't any magic going on, but just in case, I'm going to use the arcane art to weave a performance, with the performance being performative, I don't know, chat, whatever.
You're acting like her friend. That's
Oh.
Wow. Harsh.
Ooh, that's deep.
and
Sorry.
and one of the abilities is their mind is shaking clear of one enchantment.
Okay. So, as you're telling her this, her eyes clear up a little bit more, and she's like, and she looks at her arms again. She's like, "But what? But why did they tie meat to me?"
I wanted
That's-
to feed
yeah.
you to a giant thing inside the ocean, dear.
That wasn't very nice.
I
Guess they want
know,
to feed you
right?
a Giant clam.
Really not nice. But you know what? Your dad's looking for you, or your mom. I don't know who the blacksmith is. But they're looking for you, and we're gonna bring you home.
Providing, you know, like, our friend survives this next encounter.
And she
As
looks.
they're all talking, I'm just like getting like prepped, like I'm doing the like Rocky thing.
So, like,
Yeah.
there's our
pull out this-
dad.
I pull out this wrap, actually, that's got like spikes lining it, and like run it over the front of my shield.
Nice.
And you see the lizard folk champion. What do we say? His name was Thrask.
Thrask.
Yeah.
Short for Tarask.
No, I'm not fighting a many a bipedal
Please
Thrask.
So you see, he's over there, and he is big, right? He's broad-chested. He's tall. You know, he's just got rippling muscles, and you know the other lizard folk are like you know, kind of rubbing his shoulders and his arms, you know, like in the corner, right? And one of them, you know, hands him a gourd of something to drink, and he drinks it, and you see some of the other lizard folk going out. I mentioned earlier when you got here, like the head of the cove, right, out into the bay, and you can see them off over there, like there's a clear space, kind of a sand circle, and they're like smoothing it out and lighting fires around it and whatever. And from there is sort of a drop off to the sea, right? Maybe 20 feet down to
Getting
the
some Black Panther, the fight to be the next king.
kind
vibes,
of
but
yeah, kind of that
cool.
kind of vibe. Exactly. Very good. So, and then Stress goes over there, and they are kind of inspecting the preparations, and they're now holding that conch in their hands. And you are all beckoned to come over. And and so Thras goes over with kind of his entourage, right? And you know he's got a serrated spear in hand, and yeah, give me a second here.
On the other side of the ring, you know, on Gavin's side, you're getting prepped. I have a dumb idea. I'm going to.
You always do.
That's my brand. I'm gonna contact spirits, and I'm going to attempt to pull one of Thrashk's ancestors, who theoretically watch over him, and ask it for a weakness of this individual.
And what is it? What's the spell that you're casting?
Called Contact Spirits. And I should roll before you read too far, because I might just fail. But that is a 9.
Okay.
Sorry, 8. I don't think that matters.
It doesn't matter. So you can either forget the spell, take -1 ongoing to cast the spell, or draw unwelcome attention. Or put yourself in a spot.
I'm gonna say this is my one contact spirit today.
Okay. All right. And I want to check something on the spirit. You pull. So, tell us what it looks like as you are trying to contact this creature.
So outwardly, it looks like Roderick just is closing his eyes and his mouth is moving. But in his mind, in his vision, with his eyes closed, he's like viewing almost like the ethereal, like the realm of spirits. And there he conjures up in his brain a ghostly, almost like ghost green, translucent set of shadows. And they launch out into the ethereal darkness and grab onto something. And it's almost like fishing as it tugs and pulls it back towards him as he pulls this spirit from Thrask's past. And I force it to inform me.
And you pull it and you see. This doesn't just look like a lizard folk, but like a lizard folk with a crocodile's head. Is what it appears like, and its teeth are gleaming. And it says, "Ask, fleshy one."
Tell me how my friend can defeat your descendant. Now.
Thrask is proud, but Thrask is cautious. Thrask must be drawn forward. Thrask must be made to lose caution. And just like that, the lizard folk spirit dissolves into smoke.
I open my eyes and the surf of the beach hits me again. And it's a little moment where I touch the water. I'm gonna go up to Gavin. Alright, this guy. He's dangerous. And he's going to be careful against you. But if you can manage to trick him into overextending, angering, you might be able to make him throw caution to the wind. And that's when he'll start making mistakes. You can do this.
I deal with you guys enough. I should be fine.
I pat him on the shoulder.
Cool. I'm gonna step into the ring and I'm gonna pull my. I guess I don't have a helm on, but I'm gonna actually like release the top bun and this long gray hair flows down, kind of Highlander style. The wind starts gusting it backwards towards the sea.
So, just so I can remember this right, we're on the edge of a cliff, basically looking out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's like a sand circle, maybe 15 feet in diameter, right?
So can we theoretically see what is in the water?
Theoretically, absolutely. Are you looking down there?
I want to try and do the studied essence again.
So as you look down there, you can see something dark under the waves,
Okay.
but you can't. But it's now the sun is almost directly overhead, and it hasn't come up, so it's hard to see.
Okay.
By the way, one of the things that I love about Dungeon World is if you decide to make up a monster on the fly, you can do it in like a minute.
What?
You answer a series of, because most of it's the fiction of the creature.
Yeah.
But the statistical part of it, you answer a couple of simple questions, and you have its damage, its armor, its hit points, and a couple of other things, and that's it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So I decided that this champion, he's not just a regular lizard folk, right? Otherwise, it's going to be boring for Gavin.
Yeah.
Don't want
And
it to be boring.
No, we definitely don't want it to be boring. Of course not.
no. And so you are led out onto the sand there. The sun is now directly overhead, beating down. You can hear far off some of those pterosaurs. You can smell the salt. And not deep, but below you in the water, where you occasionally see this massive dark shape, the size larger than your ship. And occasionally you can hear it feels subsonic. It's not just in your ears, but you can feel in your jellies. You hear... At that, Shress holds up the conch, doesn't blow it, holds it up, and says, "To determine the sacrifice to the great Bam." Lowers the conch, steps aside. Thrask hefts a spear in his hand, lowers down. He's got a small buckler on his arm and this long spear, and starts circling warily inside the circle. Gavin, what do you do?
While he's doing that, I'm gonna take my sword, turn it around so I'm grabbing the hilt, and like the sword is kind of that way instead of going straight up, and I'm gonna jab it into the sand.
So you're like just pushing it, like stabbing down into the sand?
And then I just put up my shield and I start walking away from my sword.
It's getting more and more like Rocky every second.
Thrask.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was thinking that when you were like in his ear, like as like coach on the corner, just being like, okay, this
Yeah.
is what you know about this guy.
Here's the
Thrask
scoop.
eyes you warily and says, "How will you fight without your weapon, fleshy one?"
I don't need a sword to beat you.
I think that the mosasaur will eat good today.
Sure, it's had lizard before.
What do you do?
I'm matching his circle right now.
Right.
And I'm just like methodically thumping the shield arm against my chest. And I think behind me, I've got like a rope, sort of. I've like tied a knot into like a lasso, and I've got that kind of behind me with my other sword, or my other hand behind my back.
Okay.
So I'm just thumping and taunting him right now.
All right. So you've got like a hand behind you, like grabbing your lasso,
Yeah.
right? But where he can't see it.
Yeah. So I'm keeping like straight, like across from him. I'm circling with him right now.
Okay. He starts circling in a little bit more closely towards the center. And we said it's about 15 feet in diameter, and he's got a spear in his hand that he could throw, or he could jab at different distances. And you're not quite within the spear's reach yet. You're near, in game terms, you're near, but you're not within reach yet. But he's clearly getting a little bit closer with every sidestep. What do you do?
Um, are we about like the halfway? Like, I put my sword in. Like, how far around have we circled now? Like, how far away from my sword am I now?
Yeah, you're
Quarter
he's
of the way, halfway around.
yeah, you're almost halfway around, so he's getting close to the sword.
Okay, so what I'm gonna try and do is I'm gonna try to pull the lasso and get the sword and bring it back and smack him with it.
Okay,
Cause why the fuck not?
because why
Better
not?
than
Right?
that.
No, I'm into it. I'm totally into it.
Tim, I love your face.
Tim does have good faces.
What'd you say, Tim?
That's baller.
That's not so. You're not attacking.
Mm-mm.
You're not taking aim and shooting. You are acting despite an imminent threat, however, because as
Yeah.
you're doing that, you run the risk of kind of extending yourself.
Yeah. And
And
I could
him
lose the sword. There's a lot of things that could go very
right.
wrong. In this
So I'm
fight.
going to say this is defy danger with Dex, because you're trying to act
Good.
quickly.
Good. That's my -1 stat. It's still a 7. Oof.
So here's what happens: as you're reaching out to throw this, you're realizing it's not quite going to make it to the sword if you don't throw a little bit harder. You can either throw a little bit harder and you can grab that sword but get within the reach of his spear, or it's going to miss, or you can be more conservative with it and not grab the sword, but he won't be able to hit you either.
Oh, I'm going all in. That's not even a question.
Okay.
So.
All right. So you grab lasso. The lasso flies, lands on the sword. As you are extended like that, he realizes you're within his reach, and he's going to stab at you.
Yep. Bring it.
Well, this was one of the things about dice. So, one thing I want to explain, and then I'm going to explain why it doesn't matter in this case. Weapons can have piercing, which means your armor is effectively that much lower, right?
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
something has 2 piercing and you have 2 armor, it's like you didn't have any armor. If you have 4 armor, it's like you had 2 armor. He has 1 piercing with this serrated spear I described earlier, but he only did 1 damage. So, your armor is 2 now,
Yeah.
effectively, and it doesn't pierce through. So now you have hold of this thing, and you're yanking it back to hit him. And I'm going to say that is a hack and slash.
Okay. Yeah.
So now you roll straight as you're yanking back on this thing.
Okay. That's an 8.
So you deal your damage to the enemy, and he makes an attack against you.
Okay.
So roll your damage.
That's 7 damage. That's not bad.
That is not bad at all.
Dude, you have that like D4 thing from Olive, right?
Oh, do I still have that?
Yes, this is the time you get to use it.
Sweet. So that's adding D4 damage.
Uh-huh.
3. So 10 total damage.
Nice.
Get him.
10 total damage.
I smacked the guy with a sword on a lasso. I love Dungeon World.
Right. Now, he's also doing his damage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 5 damage, 1 piercing. So it's as if you had 2
Armor.
armor.
it's
So
like
he
3 total.
so as you're reaching out, he stabs with his spear, and it goes through. It goes into your arm, the part that's a little bit outstretched, and all of you can see some of Gavin's blood spurt onto the sand here under the white sun. But at the same time, as he pulls back that sword, it comes flying out of the sand, spinning, hits Thrask in the leg, and manages to crack right through that kind of armor that I described earlier, that kind of bamboo armor. And he hisses in pain and anger. He's still on his feet, but he's clearly very hurt. What do you do?
So I use that lasso to basically like pull the sword back into my grasp.
Okay, so when you pulled it back, it hit him,
Yeah.
but it's probably laying on the sand right then, right?
Yeah, but it's still the lasso.
Okay, so now you're gonna. Okay, so
I'm
you're
using the lasso to pull the sword the rest
so
of the way.
you're gonna. So if you do while you're doing that, like trying to pull that in again,
Yeah.
he may stab at you.
That's fine.
Okay, he's gonna
Actually-
stab at
actually,
you.
I've got a better idea. Sorry.
No, what?
I'm gonna use the sword on the end of the rope and swirl it around and try and smack him again.
Okay.
If that's all right.
So I'm gonna say, but you still got to like in order to get that much going. It's gonna take a minute to a second to kind of get it up in the air and spinning.
That'll open up an opportunity.
Yeah.
But
No, you're definitely kind of exposing yourself to do this. What are the rest of you doing while you see this?
Brody is like totally like enamored by what Gavin is doing, and at the back of his mind, he's like preparing Plan B.
Okay. I'm curious. While all this is happening, Olive, you are watching your hero in a fight to the death in the sands above the ocean. What is Olive doing?
He can do no wrong. She is cheering him on.
Okay. Sis, boom,
And
bam, bam,
she does
bam.
like she does like it doesn't even cross her mind that he could possibly lose.
Okay.
Like that is not an option.
Roderick, what are you doing?
Oh, I am the mirror opposite of Olive. I am actively planning for what happens if he loses. I'm going to do that by turning invisible, starting the situation with the rowboat.
All right. Well, he stabs at you, but it kind of glances off of your shield and doesn't do anything. Your armor deflects it.
Hack and
And
slash.
you've got this thing. Yeah, it just ka-ching! And now you've got this thing in the air. You got a sword at the end of a lasso.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hack and slash.
Yeah, hack and slash as you try to yank it down on him.
That's an 11.
Get
Whoo! Do you want to expose yourself to his attack and do the D6, or just do the regular damage?
Oh, I'm exposing myself. I think we've
Oh,
established that.
we've
that's pretty
established
much
that Gavin likes to expose himself. Okay.
So that is 9 damage total.
him more.
He does 10 damage, 1 piercing.
That's 8 for me.
So you take 8 damage as he... But that happens just... So what happens is the sword doesn't get him just yet. The lasso, as you're trying to bring it down, the rope itself kind of starts wrapping around him. And you see the sword spinning in, and lodges in his chest. And he falls forward, face into the sand.
Like,
Just as as I said, as his serrated spear stabs into you for the 10 damage.
Yeah. I'm going to one knee, but I've got it like lodged in. I'm just going down to one knee. That power play move.
Power.
So-
Right. But you're hurting.
Oh yeah. Actually, technically, if we're using 4E terms, I'm not quite bloodied.
Okay, fair.
you have so many hit points, my lord.
I know. Plus the armor, man.
The paladin isn't. Yeah, they're just a walking tank.
I love pallies.
The Shress steps forward now and blows the blessed conch. That shape in the water starts to circle and draw closer to the surface. And like we said, you're on this cliff, maybe 20 feet above the level of the ocean itself. And rising from the waves is a behemoth, over 10 tons of mass, like the Leviathans of old, just raising itself out. And you can see now at the surface this thing has these giant flippers, but its neck reach is so long and massive that it doesn't just come up the 20 feet to where you are. It's above you. And just at that stress, walks up to the now lifeless body of Thrask and says, "You return to the nature, my son." And kicks forward the body.
Kill this kid.
And the mosasaur is coming down to bite Thrask's body. Brody, what are you doing?
I am studying this creature.
Fair.
Do I get a chance to get my sword out of him?
Do you want to defy danger and do that?
No, I'm just gonna pull the spear out and hold it. Like, this is my new weapon now.
Guess so.
All right.
My sword.
This is the part when I tell you that I almost named this character Nessie.
Amazing.
So
Absolutely
good.
amazing.
And yes, I knew that ever since I said there was a shape in the water, I've seen Brody's face. Like, I gotta see this thing.
Yeah.
And
Can you turn into these things?
when you see, as it lifts back up, you see Thrask's feet sticking out from between the teeth for a minute until the monster throws it with the flip of its neck, throws Thrask into the air, opens its jaws, and lets him fall in and swallows him whole, sword and all. What do you do?
I mourn my sword.
Mourns his sword.
What are the lizard folk doing?
Well, you see them kind of murmuring. They're more focused on the mosasaur than anything, and they're they're basically making the same face as Brody. They're all pretty excited about it, and then they push forward the girl. Not off the cliff. No, I mean like out of their group.
Okay.
Out of their group.
We're gonna have words there.
No. Towards you all, and they say, "The great Bams has been sated. You may return."
Can I approach the leader
Yeah,
and ask him a question using my charming and open?
Oh, that feels very.
You are nothing if not charming and
I
open.
was gonna say.
So,
And so there's I from the text it asked me to like basically choose from a list of questions.
yeah, let me
And
see.
just be very direct with someone. Can I choose a different question as long as it's in the same vein where it's like a direct question out of nowhere?
What's the question?
I want to be like, just like this bubbly person coming up to him and being like, so how often does something like, do you guys have to, give the monster something to eat? How often does this sacrifice thing happen?
I'm getting some Midwestern mom tourist vibes here. Just how often y'all do this kind of thing here?
When the spirits demand it.
And so how often do the spirits demand it?
Ask it of them. We do not question.
I pop out from behind Olive and go,
One moment. I can just see.
"Hey, bro.
Yes, soft
This is a
skin.
question. Hey, thanks for noticing the skin. It's in good condition, mate."
You are all soft skins.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, is that creature, like, got a mate?
Did
I
Brody
have
just
one
did
and
Brody
then
just
several
suggest
questions.
did Brody
I have
just
one and
suggest
then
that he wants to
several.
fuck a giant dinosaur?
No.
Maybe
No.
just for the sake of, procreation of continuing of the species, of course.
Yeah, like I want to know, like if it's actually just, like they're feeding people, or like if he's feeding his spawn or her spawn, or I'm all about like that ocean life, dude.
Um,
He's a marine
Please send
biologist.
help.
Yeah, what happened to Nat? Nat died.
Roderick?
I'm invisible. Don't worry about
Olive starts looking for Roderick immediately after she gets the vibe of what the lizard folk is going, and she can't find him, and she's just like,
Meanwhile, Gavin's still like bleeding out from a giant couple stab wounds. I'm just like, I'm fine. I'll be fine.
If you
Don't worry about
you
Dad.
appear to be asking if there are more of these.
Yeah.
The answer is they are as the ocean itself, boundless and unknowable.
Oh. That's
They don't
cool.
know.
That's cool, man. Like, bro. When do you call them? Like, what spirits are talking to you? Because, like, I want to get to know those spirits, and so those spirits can talk to me, and then I can have a conversation with the guy, and then, so it's all copacetic.
I'm going to need you to defy danger with charisma based on charm and social grace. You are a halfling dressed in leopard print.
Swimsuit.
I'm imagining leopard print Speedo
Yeah, with frosted tips.
with frosted tips. Hats, cats, and clerics. You walked in on a
Ooh.
halfling druid asking basically whether or not a giant seabound dinosaur is seeing anyone right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
What's
a
your social
7.
schedule like?
That's a 7?
That's a
I didn't
7?
survive.
That's a 7?
I didn't survive the encounter.
Okay, so the way that this works, based on defy danger, is you stumble, hesitate, or flinch. The GM will offer you a worse outcome, hard bargain, or ugly choice. Stay with us, and we will teach you of our spirits.
Ooh.
Brody, I'm gonna have to interject here. You probably should not do that.
But bro, like, here's what I'm thinking.
I need you to.
Bro.
This is one of these moments where I've got a lot of years on this situation. I've been there. I've actually spent some time with the lizard folk, and let's just say that this isn't the situation you want to walk into.
Bro. Thinking, like, we've unbalanced the scales, like, by one of their people die for one of our people. It's only fair that I take over and balance the scales.
no, I don't think that's how it works, Brody. I think what we need to figure out is a way that we can, keep the creature fed without any,
And how can we do
people
that?
having to die.
I know, but like, how can we-
Maybe there's a problem with the amount of fishes in this area. I think that this is maybe you should invest your time and energy into figuring out the ecological problems here.
But there's,
And not
I'm actually gonna-
joining a cult, because that's really what you would be doing. Okay.
Really, by stepping into the situation, we're sort of colonizing, and really we're taking over, feeling like we have to fix it when this isn't our land. We've stepped into the situation, we've righted it from our point of view. We should really go away and not try to take over these natives. So
I'm not saying take over, I mean ingratiate.
you literally said the words "take over."
No,
The position you were talking about.
Oh no, just
Yeah, no, yeah.
we lost one of them. I go in there.
No, it's no.
just
No. That's a dad no.
no. Dad, no.
Very well. If your cultural beliefs do not allow you to stay with us, we understand you must return to the other soft skins.
but like, do me a favor. If you have to sacrifice anyone again, give me a call, and I'll let you know.
I'm sorry. What is this call you speak of, Brody?
Let you know. Like, send me an animal.
You
messenger.
wish to be fed?
Well,
No,
I
but-
can mow Dinosaur over.
Brody, see, this is kind of the thing I was trying to prevent from you walking yourself into. We should go.
Okay. The answer is no. You do not want to be fed. We're going to walk away now. Okay. Step backward.
Let's help here.
I just
One.
grab Brody's arm and start walking towards the boat. And then I grab the Smith's daughter and start walking towards the boat.
Oh, okay. I seems I'm going now. See ya, bro. Bye, bro.
Very well, Softskins. You have proven your worth today. But remember, the ocean calls. And with that, we'll end. So, just to give everybody a taste of what happens next, we are going to do the end of session move.
Ooh, fun.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just to explain. So, when you reach the end of a session, which we have, choose one of your bonds that you feel is resolved, which means completely explored, no longer relevant, or otherwise. Ask the player of the character you have the bond with if they agree. If they do, mark XP and write a new bond with whomever you wish. Is that a 0?
Yeah, it's a bagel.
It's fine. And again, normally in a Dungeon World campaign, it ends up being every couple of sessions. It takes a couple of sessions to resolve it. Normally. If nobody feels like they've fulfilled a bond, that's fine. Look at your alignment. If you fulfilled that alignment at least once this session, individually, mark XP.
So what do you mean when you say mark XP?
Like a tally.
earlier,
like
like
mark
earlier-
1 XP point, 1 experience point.
Like earlier, I got marked 1 XP for.
Right.
something.
You mark an XP when you get a 6 or less. You mark an XP if you fulfill a bond. And I'll tell you what you do with XP in a little bit. But you look at your alignment, which is different based on what it takes to fulfill it, based on your class or your playbook, right? Mm-hmm. Then we'll answer 3 questions as a group. Did we learn something new and important about the world? Almost like by definition, right?
Yeah.
Like we created this world kind of out of whole cloth for the session, so yes. Did we so you mark XP. Did we overcome a notable monster or enemy?
Yeah.
Well, Gavin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gavin did, yeah.
Yeah, but it's as a group.
Oh,
Yeah, as a group we did.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely. And did we loot a memorable treasure?
No.
Not this time.
Not this time.
I got the spear, but I don't think that
That's
was an exchange.
it's a great story though.
Is information classified as a.
Memorable, not usually. No.
Nah.
Getting the essence of that creature would have been reward enough for Brody.
Isn't
Yeah.
that the first question? Like, did we learn something new and important about the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There we
that-
go. Ah,
Which
there
was
we
a
go,
yes, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
definitely a yes for sure.
Yeah.
Now,
And then
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right.
I don't think I got anything on my alignment.
What's your alignment?
Chaotic, spur others to significant and unplanned decisive action.
I think you kind of did.
Yeah.
That whole
Yeah.
scene on the beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it counts.
Um,
Okay, I wasn't sure because I didn't prompt it. Technically, it was
But you helped. But you helped
Roderick's
though.
idea. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way experience works then, once you have it, is when you have downtime, few hours, could be from hours to days, and you have XP at least, so equal to or greater than, your current level plus 7. You can reflect on your experiences, hone your skills, and level up. So if you're level 1, it takes 8 XP to get to level 2. And let's say that by the end of the session, a session, you had 10 XP. You would just subtract 8 from that. You would have 2 XP left over, towards the next level.
Gotcha.
At that point, you get to increase your level by 1. You choose a new advanced move from your class. So that second page in your playbooks, levels 2 through 6, I think, or 2 through 5 rather, you've got one set. And then 6 through 10, you can choose from those or an additional set. If you level up as a wizard, you get to add a new spell to your spell book. And then you can choose one of your stats and increase it by 1. Changing your constitution obviously increases your max HP, and ability scores can't go higher than 18.
And how does the math on ability scores even work?
So if you get to 13 through 15 is a plus 1, 16 or 17 is a plus 2, and 18 is plus 3.
Cool.
Because just like D&D, the only reason you have scores versus modifiers is basically because that's the way it's always worked. In a lot of hacks of it, people just remove that entirely and just it takes, you can only increase an ability score once every so many levels and just take away the score and just have just the modifier. But to keep that feel of old D&D. Any other questions? Any thoughts about Dungeon World itself?
It was a blast.
I like it.
I got to
I had a
kill
lot
a
of fun.
dude with a sword on a lasso. That was I should have done.
And
I
Tim got to legit just kind of see if a giant dinosaur might be looking for a hookup.
How often can you say you do that?
Not often. I can just honestly say not often. I'm going to ask, now that we're out of character, Morrigan and Nat, I think we have a sense of what the favorite moments were for the other two. What were your two, for each of you, what were your favorite moments?
Oh gosh, I loved the scene on the beach. Honestly, that was sorry.
You can like the same thing.
It was just it was so good. It was just that was just the perfect moment that I think summarizes this entire motley group. It's just there's just animal boy lying on the beach, and then I have a bad idea, and I'm I support this bad idea. Let's roll
And
with
I'm in the
it.
back
And
sighing.
just face palm walking up. It was just the best, and I'm so glad it happened. Every beat in that whole scene was amazing.
It was good. Nat, you like that same scene? That's the thing?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Since I couldn't, while you were explaining that, come up with a second succinct
Tell us what you
scenario.
liked about the same scene.
I did, but I'll also say that I had a very enjoyable time on a more cerebral level. I found I really enjoyed the way these mechanics integrated. The way you somehow can fight things, and there was no we're fighting things now moment was impressive to me.
Yeah, there's no dual modes. It's just part of the same. You're just describing what happens. If there's a move in that, then we go through the rule on that, and that's it. In fact, if anything, the mode happens all the time. Anytime that you've got to look at a move to see what it does. And if there's no dice, and when you've been playing for a while with the same people, if there's no dice in a move, sometimes it's just part of the conversation, right? You just automatically kind of know. And the truth is, and this is more for groups that are used to playing, it's not just the GM who who calls out when a move has been invoked or is being triggered rather. Everybody is kind of part of that conversation, even for other characters. It's a whole thing, and the GM is not special in that way. Cool. Well, let's go around real quick, just do a quick intro of ourselves, and if there's anything that you want to plug, or at least where people can find you on the interwebs. and we'll go around. We'll go in somewhat reverse order. And Morrigan, why don't you tell us quickly about yourself?
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm at the FemDM on Twitter. I talk a lot about tabletop RPG things. That's kind of my thing. I also talk a lot about Magic the Gathering. And I mentioned this before, but keep an eye out for stuff related to a Kickstarter I'm going to be doing over the summer for a feature film that I produced and producing. And we're really trying to get the funding so that we can produce the feature this fall. Yeah, it's a musical and it takes place at a funeral.
Tim knows all about funerals.
I love playing with all of you. I'm so excited to play more with Variant Roles community. You guys are all great. And great job, Kyle. That was so much fun. You're an awesome GM.
Thank you. I'm glad y'all had a good time. I really am. And yeah, there will be. I'll talk in a second. Nat.
Hi, I'm Nat. I am at CrimeNat on Twitter. I tweet a lot about D&D and crap. I enjoyed this so very much. You all are amazing, and thank you, Kyle. Just especially because running game, teaching new people, and running tech all at the same time is just like, what? How? Magic?
It was held together with spit and baling wire, but
That's what they always tell me. I don't believe them anymore.
Taryn.
Hey, yeah, I'm Taryn. Thank you. Yeah, to echo Morgan. Fantastic job. I'm so glad I got to play Dungeon World, and I really want to play and run more. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at TarzanNoZ. And then around here on Sundays, we run another Powered by the Apocalypse game, Urban Shadows. Do you know what darkness cost?
I do know. Oh, wait.
There. You do know. But yeah, and we explore a little bit different use of Powered by the Apocalypse, where our players engage in the supernatural in a modern setting, and everything is just drama all the time. It's amazing, and we play at 7 p.m. Central Time on Sundays. So check us out tomorrow. Come hang out. More of this stuff. So, yeah.
Indeed. And finally, but not finally, Tim.
Hey, well, once again, thank you, Kai, for actually doing all this. The system's really intuitive, but I don't think I would have got it without you coaching me through and coaching us all through this, mate. This was an absolute blast. Absolutely loved it. I'm Tim at Anon Moth on most things on the interwebs. I tweet about most things. Typically, last couple of days have been other things, but typically like anything and everything. You can find me. I think I might be playing in Dungeons of the Mad Mage on Monday, perhaps. I think that's a conversation. And I'm going to be on Encounter Roleplay every Friday for the next couple of months, playing through Greyhawk as a wizard who is incredibly squishy and decides to do stupid things like teleport in front of a load of goblins.
So Roderick.
Basically
all wizards. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I also play a dumb wizard on Encounter Roleplay, but he's very not squishy. But also, I just continued my streak of only ever playing wizards for streams.
nice.
You didn't play a wizard with me before. What did you play when we were in?
I was a ranger, and then since then, it's been straight wizards.
Okay, fair.
Nice. I must say though, every time I start a new RPG, I try and play a druid for some reason, and this is the most fun I've had playing a druid.
Well, I'm glad that you like it.
Hands
The
down.
Dungeon World the whole point of it is to boil down D&D to its most D&D in the story sense, not necessarily the mechanical sense. So just have just enough of the flavor of the mechanics to feel that way. I'm Kyle Maxwell at TechnoScald on Twitter. I write an occasional blog on gaming stuff, including a lot of stuff about Dungeon World at technoscald.me. You can find me here a lot. I don't have a regular schedule right now. That may change in the near future. I will be doing something in next month, hopefully next month, for the final level of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, because I may or may not have the same color hair as Hallister Blackcloak and a similar beard for now. I've been thinking about trimming it, but I can't trim it until that thing is done.
It's magenta.
But I may have to trim it back. Maybe not quite as bad as far. Not bad. It's quite as far as Terran's, but close. We'll see. I live in Texas, and this does get really warm in the summer.
Yeah,
Chad is
good
saying
point.
Imagine
you're
so.
not allowed to cut the beard.
And it only took me a year and a half to grow this, so it's not. too bad.
Everyone who's here should stay.
I was gonna say yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sun, because
So
it's amazing. It's a really cool Monte Cook Games system, and
Yeah.
Dan and the cast are amazing.
yeah, I'm gonna run through. So tomorrow there's that. Monday and Wednesdays we have. I think it's still we have. I don't know. We're getting towards the end of Mad Mage. But normally Monday and Wednesdays there is stuff. There is more stuff coming. So even though we're running up to the end of Mad Mage now, there are more community streams coming. There's something coming from Saltmarsh, Ghost of Saltmarsh, and so be looking for more community signups for that. There has been sufficient interest in another Dungeon World Learn to Play session that I will run another one of these for the folks who couldn't come today. I don't know exactly when it'll be, but soon. And yeah, then Invisible Sun, which is a whole different game than this, but is so awesome. We'll be starting in a few minutes, so don't touch that dial.
Yeah.
Which I guess really just
Yeah.
pointed out my age because nobody says that anymore. Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks everybody. Yes,
Don't
Taryn, you got
forget
one more
to-
thing?
Yeah, just don't forget to, if you like what we do here, subscribe.
terrible
Drop some
at that.
bits if you like the content, and you can support us on Patreon as well, or patreon.com/variantrolls, because every little bit helps, and it goes into supporting the Zoom costs, modules, D&D Beyond, all that stuff. It really just helps us with funds and being able to run community games and doing fun stuff like this.
Yeah.
So
Taryn is way better than me at the at all the business part of this stuff, so I appreciate that.
no worries, man. I do it every Sunday. So
Right,
it's
right.
only
You got
because
it like
I've been doing
on.
it.
You got it like on record. All right. Well, good night, everybody. We'll see you in chat for Invisible Sun.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.